The old clan leader, whose heart was too painful to breathe, lowered his head and grinned, as if he was thinking about it carefully. The Shangguan looked up at the rolling thunder cloud over there and said, "Oh, it seems that the thunder cloud over there will come down in a little while. I don't know if that man can still." "Yes. It's a deal." As soon as the old clan leader clenched his teeth and stamped his feet, he turned his head and didn't seem to want to see him any more. Smile in the heart of proud. Shangguan also didn't delay. "Well, Danielle loaded on the body, fly out, look, become serious. We have to get under the thundercloud as fast as possible, because no one knows when the thundercloud will fall." Xiao tribe, paging spring. Nangong-yi sits in the spring, frowning and closing his eyes. The thundercloud in the sky seems to be coming down soon. Lightning shuttles through the thundercloud. The whole sky is like splashing ink, and it seems to be pressing on people's head. The air in the body keeps surging, as if it is about to spill out of the body. These days, I have been practicing in the spring, filling my body with fighting spirit, and preparing for my breakthrough all the time. Nangong-yi is pale, although he has made enough preparation. But in the face of the powerful thundercloud, the pressure is still very big, and the blood in his body is surging. He holds back the fishy sweetness in his throat, grits his teeth, and looks at the thundercloud in the sky. In the Xiao's tribe, Xiao Xingjie is very worried about pacing outside the spring water. Lei Yun is pressing on his head, which makes everyone feel the blood rolling. I don't know if he can carry such a powerful Lei Yun only by Nangongji. But there is no one in the whole clan who has a higher realm than Nangongji. So if he doesn't carry it, I'm afraid his tribe will be. Thinking in this way, Xiao Xingjie's heart was even more frightened. Listening to the roar inside. Looking at the lightning in the cloud like a dragon, but without the appearance of splitting, Xiao Xingjie's heart is up and down. Nangong-yi is very cautious. The purple spirit has enveloped his whole body, and he is absorbing the essence of the spring, circulates around the body, and gradually reaches the best state. All of a sudden, there was a loud bang, and suddenly a huge column of light came from the top down in the rolling black cloud. The people who were sighing all around covered their eyes and thundered. The whole Xiaojia tribe seemed to be destroyed. The purple fighting spirit suddenly condenses on the top of the head. Facing the huge energy, it makes Nangong-yi's blood gas surge. It's sweet in the throat, and a mouthful of blood spurts out. Thunderclouds continued to surge in the sky, which seemed to be dissatisfied with Nangongji's resistance. The roar was more intense, making the whole world tremble. After a while, the next thunder came down again. Nangong-yi closed his eyes and clenched his teeth. He almost carried all his fighting spirit out, fighting against the sky thunder. A burst of heartbreaking pain in his body makes Nangong-yi bite his tongue, and the blood flows down the corner of his mouth. He coughs twice, but he closes his eyes to wait. The third sky thunder, carrying more powerful energy. Then in the fourth and fifth way, the water in the spring was boiling and rolling violently, and the stone Nangongji was sitting on was broken. Nangong-yi gasps violently. His face is white without a trace of blood. In front of him, there are bursts of darkness. He forces himself to cheer up and look up at the sky. The sixth sky thunder seems to be accumulating energy. The blood stains on his white clothes made him look very miserable. There was no time to explore the situation in his body. Two thunders came down together. Nangong-yi is hit and flies out. He lies on the edge of the spring, turns over and spits out a big mouthful of blood. He closes his eyes and explores his body. His already confused body makes him a little frustrated. Maybe this is my final destiny. Vomit a breath. The blood keeps gushing from the throat. Nangong-yi reluctantly opens his eyes and raises his spirit. His broken body reluctantly gets lucky and protects himself in the seventh way. The eighth thunder doesn't chop down. Nangong-yi sits down with his knees crossed, trying to repair his seriously damaged meridians, but it's too miserable. Black clouds are surging in the sky. Half of the sky has been immersed in darkness. Everyone's eyes are wide open. The scene in front of us is very shocked. Finally, the eighth sky thunder explodes suddenly in the dull sound of the sky. Nangong-yi almost uses up his fighting spirit and raises his hand to attack the sky thunder. Suddenly, the two forces collide. The huge fluctuation will shatter the rocks and peaks beside the spring. The splashing stones will scratch Nangongji's body, and the white clothes will be covered with blood. Nangong coughs 2 times and falls to the ground. In the sky, the violent rolling thunder clouds finally gradually dissipated and cleared up in the twinkling of an eye. Xiao Xingjie was so excited that he was ready to rush into the spring. However, in front of him, a large number of people in black suddenly appeared and surrounded the whole Peijing spring. The powerful atmosphere made Xiao Xingjie pale and stepped back 2 steps. "We took the people inside." One of them coldly said, "Stop in front of Xiao Xingjie and others. Several people have rushed in." "People of the Beast Gate." Xiao Xingjie's face turned pale and looked at the people pouring into Peijing Spring. Nangongji, who lies beside the spring, gradually loses consciousness. All he hears is the sound of hasty footsteps, but he can't open his eyes. "Take it away." A man in black pointed to Nangong, who was lying on the ground dying. The 2 men came forward and bent down to set up Nangong. All of a sudden, a figure flashed in front of them, and then the 2 suddenly flew back. "Want to take him? Pass me first." The tomb left by the ancient summoner. In the cave, Yunwu didn't even have time to answer Huolinger's words. He didn't even have time to say leave as soon as possible. The lightning attack came. At this moment, the black flame on Guwu broadsword burns to the extreme. The deep black looks like a jumping black hole, which makes people feel timid from the bottom of their heart. But the opposite woman didn't seem to feel it. She looked at the clouds coldly and waved a pair of double swords mercilessly. Just like a silver snake, what swims on the double swords is the full-bodied and pure thunder element. The woman opposite not only has extremely fast speed, but also has powerful attack power. Stab. The weapon collides to send out the harsh sound. Yunwu felt as if there was a flash of thunder and lightning rushing into his body. His right hand was numb. Damn it! Yunwu's heart sank and he quickly retreated. He didn't care about the next attack, so he had to retreat to the second line. Yunwu has known the woman's identity, thunder attribute and strength from what she said just now. She always mentions the master and guards the tomb loyally. All these together show that the woman is the summoner of the tomb master. The summoner, who exists in the legend, is said to have reached a level where no one can defeat her. Her summoner's natural strength can't be underestimated. Even if because of the death of the master and the change of time, this strength will decline, but it is still not able to resist Yunwu. If we win this battle, we will have great benefits, even if we hold the whole tomb in our hands. Defeated, then all things are up to now, whether it is Yunwu's unfinished mission or her life. Cloud Dance's eyes are cold. He has thought all this clearly in his heart, and he can't neglect at the moment. That woman's attack is very fierce, a move in one form, the thunder elements used to the extreme. Just want to covet the master's treasure? Get the master's inheritance? It's just too much. The inheritors of the master are not the weak ones like you. It seems that I just looked up to you. The woman's eyes flashed a touch of ridicule and contempt. You are not as good as the little girl around you. At least she can recognize so many warcraft, but you can't recognize anything, and your strength is not so good. Cloud Dance looks unchanged, as if did not hear the woman's words in general, bright eyes, did not dare to relax. What? So nervous? Women not only have no sense of shut up, but more cynical. In her opinion, although the Cloud Dance does not have much ability, but it seems to have been holding a breath, trying to find their own flaws. Often the strong will have a kind of pride and conceit. The more they use words to tease, the easier it is to make them lose their sense. But the Cloud Dance in front of them is not like that. No matter what she said, she always kept calm. The woman even wondered when she could endure, so she made more efforts. Yunwu really didn't pay attention to the woman's words. If she only cares about the other party's ugliness, she doesn't have to fight. Her purpose is to get inheritance. If she wants to get inheritance, she must pass the approval of these guardians. They have been guarding here for thousands of years, welcoming batch after batch of challengers. Only those who finally defeat them are qualified to receive their master's inheritance. This is what Yunwu learned from the words of a woman just now. Similarly, it is also speculated that if she does not get their approval, she must leave her life here. Cloud Dance's eyes have never let go of a woman's one move, will each other's every action in mind. Slowly, Cloud Dance suddenly eyes a bright, unexpectedly found the other side attack routine. Found it. A touch of surprise flashed in Yunwu's eyes, as if he had found a treasure. The woman was stunned, frowned and asked, "What did you say? What did you find?" Yunwu did not answer her. "Just now I found out this woman's routine, and found that all her attacks benefited from the speed and power of Ray element. Every move had its own rules, which didn't look like the way a warcraft should attack. So they bet, just afraid that she was trapped here, simply cannot show the body. In that case, she would like to play with her. In fact, the sentence found is just to interrupt the rhythm of women, so as to confirm that my guess is correct. The final result is exactly the same as what she thought. The woman's rhythm is disrupted instantly, and Yunwu's eyes quickly catch a flaw. Right now, the black flame broadsword on Cloud Dance's hand waved and chopped at the side of the woman's neck with an extremely tricky angle. If this attack is hit, I'm afraid that the woman will die directly in Cloud Dance's hand. The woman's reaction is also fast. A sword in one hand quickly blocks the ancient Wu dagger. Another long sword full of cold light stabs Yunwu directly. As long as Yunwu continues to attack, it will be stabbed. Cloud Dance sneer. Early guessed the woman's possible action, the body of a twist, in a distorted posture to the side of the rigid twist. At the same time, the right foot raised, mercilessly toward the woman's belly kick. The speed of this foot is just reached the extreme by Cloud Dance, and it's too late for the woman to react. Bang! The woman was directly kicked out and hit the back of the mountain wall. The woman snorted and looked up at Yunwu for the first time. I don't know if your master has ever told you not to waste your energy on unnecessary things when dealing with others, and talking nonsense is one of them. Cloud Dance looks at the woman standing up on the ground, and says coldly. She was very clear that her foot just kicked her away. For a woman, it was like tickling. It didn't hurt her at all. After listening to Yunwu's words, the woman smiles instead of anger, and her face becomes very charming because of this smile. It's a funny little fellow. If the master is alive, maybe he will accept you as an apprentice. It's not only charming in appearance, but also charming in voice. If a man listens, he will not be able to hold it on the spot. Cloud Dance frowned, looked at the woman and said, "Your body is a fox? Oh, you found out." The woman spat out her tongue and took some love with her. "You are not too stupid, but your strength is poor. You are not qualified to be the inheritor of the master." Cloud Dance stood up straight body, squinting at her. "How do you know just now is my all strength?" "All the strength." The woman picked an eyebrow. "The summoner's full strength is to add the summoner. But don't you find that you lost contact with the summoner as early as the moment you entered the tomb?" "What?" Yunwu suddenly opened his eyes and tried to call his own summoner. Finally found that as the woman said, no matter how they call, those who are usually very busy summon beasts did not appear. Don't say you can't summon them now. It's no use even if you can summon them all. The woman then said, "Don't you find that I haven't shown myself up to now? So even if you call them out, unless they die, they will never be able to fight with themselves. In that case, how much combat power can they have?" Yunwu's eyes narrowed to calm down. "I'm not only a summoner, but also a fighter. Even if I don't have a summoner around me, I can be alone. You can't fight with Numenon, can you?" Woman alone, followed by what seems to be a funny joke in general, laugh at the flowers falling, finally stopped. "I said, little sister, haven't you found out yet? Even if I don't have to fight in Numenon, my strength is not bad. I'm half human. How can I compare with other warcraft?" Since she and her friends decided to guard the tomb thousands of years ago, she consciously abided by the rules of the tomb, turned into a human figure and stayed here forever, until she met the next inheritor to inherit everything from her master. Only when someone comes to seize the tomb when it is extremely difficult, will they use some special means to make themselves free from the rules of the tomb, and show themselves to resist the outsiders. But up to now, although some people once wanted to seize the tomb, there was no one who made them present themselves. When the woman said that, Yunwu suddenly remembered. Just now when women use double swords, they are really like human warriors. They even have the blessing of thunder element. Their speed and attack are more powerful than ordinary warriors. With this thought, Yunwu suddenly became very curious about this woman, and a bold idea suddenly appeared in her heart. Since this woman is Warcraft, I don't know if I can contract her? As soon as this idea came out, the woman opposite seemed to be able to understand Yunwu's mind and said, I advise you not to think so much about it. Do you agree with me? It depends on whether you have that ability. Cloud Dance was poked in the mind, but didn't feel embarrassed at all. On the contrary, he admitted, How can you be contracted by me? Women's eyes are cold, with the appearance of the charming, as if there are endless amorous feelings in general. Contract me, first of all, to survive from my hands. Yunwu is well prepared. I'm afraid I have to understand the truth next. The flame of the ancient sword in my hand was loud, as if declaring my strength. Slowly, with the beat of the rhythm, there was a touch of red mixed in the black. The number in black cannot be compared. But in that black flame, red is like a king, with the dignity that can't be provoked. The woman's eyes flickered when she saw the red flame, but there was not much surprise. Although Warcraft can't be summoned, if Warcraft has its own flame, the owner can use it. Now Yunwu only uses her Warcraft flame. I just don't know what kind of Warcraft with that kind of flame will be. I still need a Thunder series of Warcraft. If I win you come with me. Cloud Dance, corner of the mouth a hook, coldly said. That serious tone does not look like a joke. The woman didn't speak. On the double swords in her hand, the silver light flickered more obviously and rushed to the cloud quickly. This time, her attack is no longer just a physical attack. This human wants her to be her summoner again and again. Then she will let her have a good look at the gap between them. Suddenly speed up. Do not know how much speed. Let the Cloud Dance to deal with more difficult. A moment of change as if and before completely two people. Cloud Dance in the heart no. Only afraid is oneself again and again and again of put forward to let her do own summon beast and thoroughly annoy her. Now this woman is really want own life. Because it is more difficult for them to recognize other human beings than ordinary Warcraft, which have been legendary characters. But Cloud Dance doesn't believe it. You don't recognize me? Then I will let you have a good look. I have the qualification to let you recognize. The sound of ping ping is constantly ringing in the cave, and each move is extremely dangerous. With the addition of pure yang, the power of Cloud Dance is several times more than before. But in spite of this, in the hands of women even still have no fight back. Hulinger on one side was already worried. At this time, she didn't have the heart to think why the Cloud Dance was a summoner, why the woman suddenly became so angry. At this time, there is only one idea in her heart, that is, Yunwu must not lose. Sister Yin, you must not get hurt. You will win. You are so powerful. How can you lose to a Warcraft? Hulinger tries to stay away from the battle circle, not to add trouble to Yunwu. He shrinks in the corner and looks at the battle situation in front of him with fear. Until this time, I finally realized that my strength was so poor that I could barely do it without disturbing, let alone helping. Sister Yun, you must not have anything to do. You have to protect me and find my baby. How can you be defeated in this place? Our adventure is just the first step. If you are safe, I will let my father leave all the good things to you, as long as you are safe. Hulinger prays anxiously in his heart. However, heaven seemed not to hear her prayer at all. Even though she was not strong enough, she could see that the war in the cave was slowly falling towards the woman. Another pair of swords hit Yunwu. Although there was no damage on the surface, Yunwu could avoid the crucial place. But Yunwu felt numb, and a ray element directly penetrated into her body. Yunwu was surprised. At this time, the woman's double swords had stabbed her from two directions, with extremely fierce momentum. No matter which direction she was hiding, she could not escape the disaster. Go to hell. The woman's eyes with a strong murderess, for that enchantment added a cold, as if the glamorous poppy, but it is so pure. Fight. Cloud Dance looks at the murderous spirit in the woman's eyes, and knows that she can't escape anyway, and now she's ready to go. The earth element swept out in an instant, forming a protective layer in the direction of the long sword. Yunwu didn't feel that the protective layer could block the woman's attack. This defense was just to delay time. Then the overwhelming red flame swept out. Cloud Dance will be able to use the pure yang yin all mobilized out. In an instant, the whole cave are very bright by the fire. Huolinger was shocked to see what happened in front of her. It was clear that Yunwu couldn't see any hope at the moment before, and her heart was also pulled up. Unexpectedly, Sister Yin gave her such a big surprise at this moment. Good, it's amazing. The fire spirit Sun Nan Nan rode. The vision does not leave that gorgeous fire light for a moment, as if saw the most beautiful scene in the world. Women are also shocked by this scene. Against the background of the fire, women can see the madness on Cloud Dance's face. But there's nothing she can say about it. The smile on Yunwu's face seems to be laughing at her. She is the one who is beyond measure. This fire, how's it going? Cloud Dance mouth light hook, looking at the woman's face, said with a smile. Originally, she intended to use the black flame, but when the woman's double swords collided with the defense condensed by the local elements, Yunwu intuitively believed that only relying on the black flame could not defeat her. In a moment, Yunwu mobilized Pure Yang. Pure Yang Yen, where you pass, you are invincible. Under the attack of Pure Yang Yen, that pair of double swords had already become dull, and even had a faint sign of being melted. The woman frowned and put away the pair of swords. Seeing her like this, Yunwu not only didn't relax, but also became more vigilant. She had no idea what kind of action the woman would take next. Come on, Sister Yin. Huolinger looked at it and could not help saying that the voice was very light, for fear of disturbing the Cloud Dance. But there was a faint excitement in his eyes. Now is Sister Yin going to win? But Yunwu doesn't think so. First of all, the woman hasn't shown herself. Even now, she still doesn't see the appearance of the woman at a loss. She doesn't believe that she doesn't have the last move. Sure enough, after taking back the double swords, the woman immediately stepped back and separated from Yunwu. Looking at the Cloud Dance, staring at her eyes and the bright red flames around her, the corner of the woman's mouth was hooked, showing a charming smile. The next moment, the woman's body bent, the body into a ball. The next moment, the white sky directly rose in the fire. In the desert, Mengbai still walked day and night, passing through scattered villages, borrowed some water and food, and went on the road. He didn't know where he was, and he didn't know where he was going, so he went forward aimlessly. At night, the desert was desolate. The silvery moonlight poured down in the desert. It was cold. The temperature was very different from that of the day. Mengbai could not help wrapping his skin tightly. Spit out a cold, feel his whole body will be frozen, and look around, hoping to see a person walking alone in the desert like himself. The night was long and hard. Mengbai walked for a long time. Only looking at the stars in the sky did he know that he was going north. Hunger and thirst made him dizzy. Finally, after walking for many miles, I was too tired to lift my legs, so I sat down on the sand, folded some dry shrubs and lit them. This faint flame has become the only light source and heat source in the desert. Mengbai sighed and kept putting wood in it. He took out the raw meat from his luggage and roasted it on the fire. No matter how it tasted, it was just to survive. No matter how bad the meat was, he bit his teeth and swallowed it. Until he swallowed the roasted meat, Mengbai finally felt the warmth of his body. It was no longer so cold, so he looked at the sky and sat waiting for the dawn. A series of voices suddenly appeared behind him, which made Mengbai, who had been feeling very unsafe, nervous and listened to the voice behind him. That sound, it seems to come from some warcraft. Mengbai thinks so. He carries out fighting spirit. The whole body is on guard, waiting for the voice behind him to get closer and closer. What is it? Mengbai thought in his heart. However, his voice was getting closer and closer, and he heard it more and more clearly. It was like a lot of insects with only one foot coming towards him behind him. My heart goes up to my throat. Mengbai did not dare to move. He listened carefully to the voice behind him. Sure enough, after a while, countless voices suddenly appeared behind him, which made people shiver. Mengbai breathed until he heard something close to him. Then, the tentacles of that thing suddenly stretched out from behind Mengbai. Mengbai, with a thump in his heart, turned his head and raised his hand to chop. He heard a fierce roar behind him. He quickly turned over and stood up. This time he was shocked. In the desert behind him, countless red eyes, with the sound of knowing Suasua's feet touching the sand, surround him with Meng Bai as the center of the circle, and the circle is gradually shrinking. Meng Bai's heart rate suddenly quickens, although the fighting power of this kind of thing is not so good. But this thing is collective foraging every time you go out, so no matter how high the realm, it will consume your physical strength. He sacrificed the sword, and the whole person was surrounded by fighting spirit, but he still felt the cold breath from these things and surrounded himself. It seems that those warcraft can't feel Meng Bai's specific state, so they wisely choose not to move forward. Instead, they are less than 3 feet away from Meng Bai, wandering around, and their tentacles are constantly touching Meng Bai, as if they are looking for opportunities to start. Meng Bai calms down and holds the sword in his hand. He has a spirit of 12 points. When he faces countless multi-legged insects, he really has no chance of winning. Thinking like this, I can't help laughing bitterly. Do you think I'm going to die here today and become a delicious food for insects? Suddenly, an insect in front of him suddenly put up his upper body and ran to Meng Bai with his lower body's feet. The antennae on his head and the legs of his front body actually became weapons to attack Meng Bai. Meng Bai grasped the hilt of the sword in his hand, raised his hand and cut it toward the antennae of the multi-legged insect. With a click, the polypod's hard shell didn't seem to play much role. Its antennae broke in response to the sound, and the polypod suddenly lost its center of gravity and fell to the ground, unable to struggle. Meng Bai laughs. He finally understands that the antennae are not only the nose and eyes, but also the things to master the balance of gravity. Therefore, if the antennae are cut off, the next thing will be too simple. He rushed forward and thrust his sword into the shell of the fallen multi-legged insect. The insect began to scream sharply, wriggled a few times, and suddenly exploded in front of Meng Bai. All of a sudden, the shell of the multi-legged insect, like a dart, flew towards Meng Bai. Meng Bai had not yet recovered from the explosion, and then he felt a sharp stabbing pain all over his body. When I looked down at myself, I saw that my body was full of blood, and they were extremely deep. The blood instantly dyed my clothes red. Meng Bai grins, but sees the multitudinous multi-legged insects around him. It seems that he is suddenly furious, standing up and pouncing on Meng Bai Fei. My God, Meng Bai couldn't help crying. But no one heard him. He raised his sword and cut off the antennae of the polypodes in front of him. However, he did not dare to kill the polypodes anymore. The wound on his body was bleeding and gradually dyed the sand on the ground red. Meng Bai gasped and looked at the insects on the ground. The ugly multi-legged insect can't roll on the ground, but he can't do anything about Meng Bai for a moment. Then he breathes out his breath and continues to kill the continuous multi-legged insect in front of him with his sword. It seems that it is rare to see people in the deep desert. The polypodes are obviously hungry. Meng Bai in front of them becomes the food of all polypodes. Meng Bai looks at these multi-legged insects and seems to be possessed and pours on himself, feeling the heavier and heavier sword in his hand. Suddenly, he tore a piece of cloth from his clothes and wrapped it around his hand. He tightly wrapped the sword and hand together, and cut off the multi-legged insects in front of him. The ground is mixed with the blood of Meng Bai and multi-legged insects, which makes the whole desert full of killing. A gust of wind came, blowing up the sand on the ground and burying the sand that had been soaked with blood. There was no other trace except the corpse of the multi-legged insects on the ground. Meng Bai thrust his sword into the sand and fell to his knees. It's been so long, but seeing the appearance of multi-legged insects in the sand in the distance, Meng Bai's face can't help but turn white again. His face is very ugly. He stood up from the ground with his sword. Meng Bai is covered with blood, and his clothes have become stiff. He looks at the horizon, and the fish belly is white. It seems that the bloody and cruel night will finally pass. Meng Bai breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that he had never seen the appearance of polypodes during the day, so there should be no danger. Thinking like this, coping with the multi-legged insects in front of us, waiting for the sun to rise. Finally, in a cold wind and the smell of blood, I can see the east direction. The sun has crossed the horizon, slowly rising towards the sky above. Tired, cold, hungry let Meng Bai dizzy. He looked down at his trembling hands and gave a wry smile. However, looking around, countless red multi-legged insects like red centipedes emerged in the desert. These warcraft seem to have been possessed, and they appear endlessly, crawling towards Mengbai's direction. What's going on? Mengbai frowned. Does it mean that the day has no effect on these things? Gradually, the sun rose higher and higher, and the temperature in the desert rose instantly, which made Mengbai feel warm. In front of him, the multi-legged insect, which kept twisting, suddenly stopped twisting. Then, before Mengbai could react, he heard countless explosions around him and suddenly remembered. 1 person and a half-tall multi-legged insects, countless rolling multi-legged insects on the ground, exploded one by one in front of Mengbai. Suddenly, bursts of shell fragments are like darts, flying towards Mengbai. That's very fast. As soon as Mengbai had no way to react, he instinctively covered his face with his hands and wrapped his whole body in a moment of fighting. But there were still many pieces flying into his body. Suddenly, a burst of heartbreaking pain made his eyes dark. With a groan of pain, the sword turned in his hand and avoided countless pieces. All over the desert, the polypods exploded one by one. Finally, the mentally retarded multi-legged insect seemed to realize that it would die in the sun. Suddenly, a multi-legged insect ran quickly in the direction it came. Then large areas of red, like ebb tide in general, quickly disappeared in the direction of coming. Mengbai vomited blood, countless wounds, and the wave of multi-legged insects' self-explosion hurt him both inside and outside. He reluctantly supported his broken body and continued to walk forward, breathing heavily. Simply after a short walk, I saw a small tribe in front of me, with people coming and going. My eyes suddenly lit up the light of hope, and I regretted why I didn't take 2 more steps yesterday. Maybe I won't meet what happened in the evening, and I hurried forward. But everything in front of him began to be in a trance. The air was getting hotter and hotter, which made him dizzy in bursts, and his ears began to be unable to hear clearly. Countless people cast strange eyes at him. Some of them are evasive, for fear that Mengbai will meet him. Mengbai looked around, but his eyes were already empty. He couldn't see anything clearly. He just mechanically moved his legs and walked forward. But in the end he couldn't hold on. At the moment of his fall, he saw the feet of countless people running towards him, and the eager voice. "Come on! Here's a man who fainted." It seems that this man was attacked by a polypod in the desert. God, there's a lot of blood. It's important to help. Finally, the world is clean. Mengbai thought so, and then he didn't know anything in the next second. When he regained consciousness again, he felt that he had been lying on the soft bed. He didn't rush to open his eyes. He closed his eyes and inspected the situation in his body. I couldn't help but be glad that after such a battle, I was filled with a lot of fighting spirit in my body. It seemed that I was overflowing. Maybe it's time to heal well and prepare for the breakthrough. Suddenly, a smell of food floated into his nose, which made Mengbai, who had been eating half-cooked warcraft meat in the desert, feel that he was hungry and his chest was close to his back. "Open your eyes and get out of bed." Next to him, there was a sudden shriek. I saw 2 maids standing by the bed, suddenly covering their eyes with their hands, blushing like apples. Mengbai almost subconsciously covers the quilt back. Then he feels that his clothes have been taken off, countless gauze entangled, but he is naked. His face turned red and he couldn't help feeling embarrassed. Cough. Cough twice. He bowed his head and did not dare to look at the maid beside him. He just whispered, "Well, can you give me back my clothes?" Xiao tribe, paging spring. Nangong-yi is lying on the ground, already very weak. When he closed his eyes and heard the quarrel in front of him, he was suddenly stunned. This voice is very familiar. I forced myself to open my eyes, but I saw a man standing in front of me with his back to me and a sword in his hand. But I can't see who it is, and I can't remember who the voice comes from. But Shangguan couldn't help frowning. All the people in front of him were from the Beast Gate. Behind him, he turned his head and glanced at the dying man lying on the ground. He couldn't help muttering in his heart, "This man is really familiar, no? How does it look like Nangongji?" But Nangong-yi is always wearing a veil. So far he hasn't seen the appearance under his veil. It's not like his style to show up in public, however. The situation in front of him did not give him time to check the situation. So he had to finish the task given to him by the old patriarch first, protect the man, make a smooth breakthrough, and then heal. Since you have taken other people's things, you must give something back to them. So when you throw the sword, it gives out a long chant, and your eyes become cold. The people of the Beast Gate are really irreconcilable. Shangguan was so lucky that he wrapped up his whole body, and the black fighting spirit, but instantly let the people in front of 10,000 Beast Gate stunned. A few people lower their heads to discuss, from time to time to see the Shangguan. Hey, I said you. Shangguan watched warily at the man in front of the Beast Gate, but said to Nangongyi behind him, hurry up and heal. I'll tell you, I can't last long. Nangongyi behind him suddenly saw the person in front of him carrying out a moment of black fighting spirit, and his heart was cold, but suddenly thought of this voice is very familiar. At last, silent for a long time, suddenly faint smile, gritted his teeth to support the body cross-legged and sat down, closed his eyes. Thank you, Shangguan. In front of the Shangguan did not continue to turn his head, just a bright eyes. This voice good. The master here is Nangongyi. Damn, for a moment, there was some blood boiling. However, when Shangguan looked at the Beast Gate that was still at a loss in front of him, his eyes became colder and colder. In order to catch Nangongyi, you have really taken great pains. A sarcastic sentence, led in front of the people of the Beast Door instant silence. I immediately realized that although this man was a member of the Beast Gate, his heart didn't belong to the Beast Gate. Several people instantly realized that this man might be the Little Lord. Immediately toward the officer a fist, cold voice way. That then sorry. Then he turned his head and nodded to the people around him, who rushed to Shangguan. Nangongyi, you give me a good treatment. These people I can still deal with. Shangguan shouts and rushes to the people of the Beast Gate. Paging spring outside but scared Xiaoxingjia. Looking at the countless people in front of them, they stopped all of them, but they didn't know what happened. They just said to the people with a dry smile, well, young Xia, I want to know what happened, which surprised the people of the Beast Gate to come here. We can solve the things here by ourselves. However, the people in front of the Beast Gate ignored him and didn't look at him. They just stood quietly in front of Xiaoxingjia and others, silent. Paging spring is now in full swing. Nangongyi repressed the blood gas in his body, and closed his eyes to repair the damaged meridians in his body. However, the injury was heavy and it was too difficult to heal. Nangongyi is very anxious in his heart. Although all the people in front of him are not the opponents of Shangguan, no one knows what big role they will play this time. With the rapid movement of the fighting spirit in the body, Nangongyi quickly entered the state. Shangguan stirred up a faint smile at the corner of his mouth, but none of the people of the Beast Gate could get close to him. This made the people of the Beast Gate very angry, but they had nothing to do. Looking back at Nangongyi, he is trying to adjust his breath. He can't help but smile again. All of a sudden, I was sent to a strange place. After a long time, I finally met a friend. There is nothing happier than this. Then he put the sword into a person's body. Shangguan was in a good mood. He thought that it was no longer extravagant to reunite with other friends. My good son, I haven't seen him for such a long time. It seems that he has improved a lot. Suddenly, in Paging Spring, a familiar voice came into Nangongyi's and Shangguan's ears, which made their faces turn white at the same time. Shangguan's expression became serious in an instant. His hand holding the sword tightened and clenched his teeth. You are here. It seems that you are serious this time. Nangongyi opens his eyes and looks in front of him. In front of Shangguan, a familiar figure came slowly towards them. And the invisible pressure on that person made two people feel suffocated. Shangguan turns his head and looks at Nangongyi. Nangongyi also looks at him. His injury is very serious. The time to adjust his breath is not enough to recover. And this character in front of us is really a headache for both of us. I don't know if I'm lucky or unfortunate to meet you here. Shangguan sneered. Looking at the Shangguan in front of him, the invisible pressure makes his hands and legs constantly tremble. But he did not let. Even if I am dead, I will not let you take my friend here. Hearing this, Shangguanli burst out laughing. As if he had heard some funny joke, he suddenly raised his hand and patted Shangguanli hard on his chest. Shangguan had been ready for a long time, but also carried up his fighting spirit, facing Shangguan's fierce palm in front of him. But Shangguan is too strong. As soon as Shangguan's fighting spirit reached him, his blood was already surging. He stepped back several steps, and the blood was gurgling down the corner of his mouth. And the other side at the same time. The hot and red flames, like burning blood, lit up the whole cave. Cloud Dance and Fire Spirit, two people one after another, one face shocked looking at in front of suddenly appear white. And that fiery red completely different feeling. It is a root of white hairy tail. Each tail is surprisingly large, white without a flaw. At the moment of erecting, they quickly wrapped the body that had been curled up into a ball. In an instant, a white hairy ball appeared in the fire. This is the beast. Huolinger looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief, shocked and speechless. I saw that the white fluffy ball was very huge. At the moment of forming, a layer of silver light flickered on her body, protecting her whole body, so that she would not be burned by the fire. Yunwu's face sank as time went on. There is no other reason, just because the pure Yang Yin completely lost her power after the silver light appeared. Under the silver light, pure Yang Yin can't get close to the body no matter how burned. Compared with the power, pure Yang Yin seems to be just a child, and has no fighting power in front of adults. Cloud Dance's eyes are very cold, but still did not give up. As long as pure Yang still exists, the woman must maintain the present defensive state. Without hesitation, Cloud Dance turned his hand, and the ancient sword with burning black flame appeared in his palm again. Since pure Yang Yin can't deal with you, then add me and come along. The cold voice rang out, without a trace of emotion mixed in. Cloud Dance body movement, directly toward the white ball fly, with the force of force, merciless attack up. Black and silver were wrapped in a piece of red. Unexpectedly, the violent collision did not appear. The silver light was suddenly in full bloom before the attack of Cloud Dance arrived. It was extremely dazzling in this cave. What's the situation? Huolinger quickly turned his head, and put out his hand to block the dazzling light. It seemed that he would be blinded by the light if he took another look. Then I thought, I can't look at the light directly from such a distance. Will the distance of Cloud Dance be directly affected by the light? At the moment, Huolinger immediately cried out in panic, Sister Yun. Yunwu was really affected by the sudden light, but he quickly closed his eyes. The dazzling light, a thin eyelid could not block. Even if I close my eyes, still feel uncomfortable. The Cloud dances quickly to make a judgment, and the neck twists to avoid the dazzling light. At the same time, the perception will be more intense release. The surrounding environment detection is very clear. The black flame broadsword on the hand not only didn't take back, but continued to chop toward the ball. Bang! Like the sound of metal collision, the black flame dagger directly collided with the silver light. Cloud Dance just felt like cutting on the hardest thing. The black flame sword had no influence on the silver layer. How could that be? Cloud Dance alone, eyes full of surprise. Although there is no way to open your eyes to see, but you can clearly know what happened through perception. But before she could react, the white ball changed again. Silver light suddenly shrunk, as if brewing some great power in general. Cloud Dance, hands on a meal, quickly retreat out. Just as Yunwu's body was far away, the light suddenly exploded again. This time, it's a complete explosion. Where the silver light has gone, it makes the pure Yang Yin invisible. The crushing of strength makes the pure Yang Yin become like a weak grass, which is helpless in front of the strength. Sister Yin. The silver light flashed. Huolinger opened his eyes and saw the figure of Cloud dancing backward, and the red flame that was crushed. He was very anxious. Although she didn't know what the red flame was, she could see that its power was absolutely unusual, but now she didn't even have the strength to fight back, which was enough to show the woman's terrible. What's more, she was the summoner of ancient times. Don't come here. Cloud Dance, a low drink, directly stopped the footstep of Fire Spirit Sun. The line of sight dead stares at the front to shrink into a ball of white fluff. At this point, she obviously can no longer use pure Yang Yin to fight. If the silver light comes again as before, I'm afraid pure Yang Yan will be directly extinguished. By then both she and Stink will be affected. There is still a long way to go, and the battle is not over. She cannot lose. Hualinger's forward step stopped abruptly, and could only look at the cloud dance with a worried face. She knows her strength. The battle is not over yet. She can only make trouble for Yunwu. At this time, she suddenly resented why she didn't work hard at ordinary times, so that she could protect the person she wanted to protect at the critical time, instead of watching from a distance and trying not to drag others down. Sister Yin, you must win. When you win, I will practice hard after I go back. I will. Hualinger prayed silently in his heart, then stood back and looked at the two men in front of him from a distance. Cloud Dance heart read a move, directly put away that burning pure material Yang Yan. Eyes burning looking at the ball in front of. The fire is so intense that it forces me to show half of my body. Only after 9 tails can I stop it. The enchanting voice of the woman rings out again. Then the white ball came loose slowly. 9 huge white fox tails stand up and sway behind the woman, which makes the figure more petite and enchanting. The woman's face with a cold smile seems to be praise, more like ridicule. It's a pity that the strength of the people who use it is too low. If your realm is higher, I really can't resist it. It's a pity that such a good fire it's wasted. Yunwu's eyes were extremely cold. It was the first time that he heard such words from others. It seems that their strength is an insult to these babies. Even if they were insulted by others before, they are not reconciled at the moment. If you think about it carefully, Yunwu suddenly feels that he is not too dependent on these external things. From pure Yangyan to Guwu de Geo, no matter which one is inseparable from their own strength, they always borrow these things, and they can easily crush their opponents. However, there are few opportunities to fight against the opponent with their own realm. If one day, pure Yangyan lost its effect, Guwu broadsword was taken away by others, and Hayo left himself, was it as if he had broken his arm? Just like at the moment, when the pure Yang lost its effect, he was inexplicably feel a trace of panic. It's only a few months since she got pure Yang. Habit can be so terrible. Yunwu suddenly felt a chill in her heart. She didn't realize this problem until now. If it wasn't for today's war, I'm afraid I would be flustered if I really wait until such a day. No. You can't do that. Cloud Dance cries in the heart. What I need is to add wings like a tiger. Even without them, I can cross the mountains like a fierce tiger, instead of making them a part of my body. Without them, I will never fight again. Realizing this, Yunwu took a deep breath. My own realm. My own ability. What is your own strength no matter what the situation is? Body method, moves, the power of elements in the body, fighting spirit. Yunwu closed his eyes and thought for a while. When he finally opened his eyes became firm again. The opposite woman stood there coldly. Yunwu didn't do it, and she didn't rush to do it. Behind her, the 9 huge tails kept shaking, bringing a breeze in the cave. Thank you very much. Cloud Dance gently opened her lips and spat out these 2 words from her mouth. Woman Alung, some inexplicable looking at Cloud Dance, asked. Thank you? What do you thank me for? Thank me for belittling your strength? Yunwu no longer talks. She knows that it's useless to say anything at this time. What's really useful is her own strength. As soon as you turn your hand over, the black flame sword has disappeared in your hand. At the same time, the majestic fighting spirit and the force of elements in the body are carried at the same time. Feel the majestic power in his body constantly surging. Cloud Dance as if to find a reliable thing in general. The heart cannot help but rise a sense of security. This is the power that really belongs to you and can be used for you at any time. As long as she lives one day, she will rely on the power of survival. The purple fighting spirit emerges on the body and envelopes the whole body. The woman opposite was slightly stunned. Fighting spirit? Or purple? Hualinger was also a little surprised. When he saw the Cloud Dance fighting before, he just saw that her body method was very fast and decided that she was a master. Later, I learned that she was a summoner, but now, I saw that she had purple fighting spirit. Purple. But the highest level of fighting. It's really Sister Yin. She's so powerful. Huolinger looked at the purple figure and murmured, I feel proud of having such a cloud sister, but at the same time, I feel guilty. How can you have such a good sister? Surprised? The cloud danced around the corner of his mouth, his eyes were cold, and even his voice was cold. It's not just these that are worth your surprise. My strength, it's only now. With that, Yunwu's right hand stretched out, and several elements in his body appeared on his palm at the same time, constantly lengthening and extending, and finally turned into a colorful sword on his hand. This is a sword with 5 colors. Each color represents an element. There are 5 kinds of elements: thunder, fire, water, wind and space. Attack the strongest thunder and fire, heal and ice water, the fastest wind, plus the same space elements as the owner of this tomb. This is the sword that Cloud Dance controls 5 elements to gather together, trying to find their balance, so that they will not repel each other. It is unique in the world. What? 5 elements? How is that possible? The woman opposite was shocked to see the sword in Yunwu's hand. She couldn't say a word of surprise, as if she had seen something very incredible. Let's not talk about the rarity of the summoner, or the rarity of the summoner with multiple elements. Let's just talk about 5 elements. They are the most perfect combination in the world. What kind of talent can just have these 5 elements? It's just that she doesn't know. In fact, Cloud Dance doesn't have exactly 5 elements. She just has all the elements, but she knows that this combination can maximize the attack power. Why not? Don't you see it now? The words of Yunwu are understated, and they are not proud of having so many elements. Because she clearly knows that no matter how many elements she has, whether she is a summoner or a warrior, the most important thing is always strength and realm. Strength cannot be improved, even if she has so many elements. Today must also be explained here. Sister Yun, even worse than the tomb owner. The owner of this tomb is just 2 elements. Huolinger stood at the bottom and looked up at Cloud Dance in shock. At this time, she almost thought that she was in a dream, because only in a dream can she know Sister Yun so well. The woman was shocked in the same place. For a moment, her heart was mixed, and for a moment, she was proud of the talent of Cloud Dance. Because only such a person can accept the master's inheritance. But she doesn't want her talent to surpass her master. In her opinion, her master should be the most powerful and the best human in the world. However, no matter whether she was shocked or how shocked she was, Yunwu didn't mean to be shocked with her. Originally, to show their strength in this way is to make the other party stunned, and then to achieve their own goal. Now the time has come. The woman in shock did not expect that Yunwu would choose to attack at this time. The 5-color sword was not only as simple as it looked on the surface, but it was not very easy when Yunwu was first used, so it was very careful. But then I found that the sword had many advantages. Because it is composed of 5 elements, it is not necessarily a specific form, and can be shortened or extended at any time according to one's own mind. Even can change the soft and hard, from time to time as a soft sword, and suddenly back to the ordinary sword. And finally even the cloud hand a swing, directly into a whip toward the woman tied up. What the hell is this? It's so weird. The woman was very uncomfortable by the weapon in Yunwu's hand. There is a very important link in the battle, which is anticipation. It is necessary to determine where the opponent's next attack will be, and what the weapon's attack range is. But when it comes to Cloud Dance, these 2 points are not applicable at all. Cloud Dance mouth a hook, through the moves just now, for their new weapons become more handy. However, in the face of this woman, there is no sense of relaxation. If there is an opportunity in the future, we must study more, but now we can only fight well. The power of the long sword, which contains 5 elements, is no weaker than that of the ancient sword. If you can add more elements, it will be more powerful. But Yunwu knows that according to her current strength, she can only control 5 elements. If she adds another one, she is afraid that she will not be able to control it. At that time, she will not only not increase her power, but also make trouble for herself. In such a critical moment of life and death, she would not take risks. Damn it, the woman nearly swelled the Cloud Dance's move several times in a row, and all the huge 9 tails behind her spread out. But it's just a symbolic development. because she doesn't think cloud dance is qualified for her to recite. She doesn't fully contact with the suppression of space here, and the suppression of her strength still exists in the tomb. But now she can't stand it anymore. If you don't open 9 tails, I'm afraid she will be suppressed all the time. Human. Don't be proud. I'll show you my real strength. The woman drinks a jiao. The body quickly retreats. Next, the huge tail behind suddenly soared, but there was no sense of disobedience behind the body. Even because of the size of Billy, it was particularly compelling. Yunwu's eyes were slightly heavy, and he could clearly feel that while the 9 tails were soaring, the whole cave seemed to be covered by a kind of prestige. It was a majestic and incomparable thunder element, as if it brought people into the thunder sea in an instant. Ling, you leave first. Cloud dance had also don't return of account. She had a premonition that the next move was different from what she had just done. It was no longer a skirmish, but a move that could take someone's life at any time. Huolinger didn't speak, but his eyes were very stubborn, and he didn't want to leave. She didn't want to be a burden, so she stepped aside. However, it does not mean that she will leave her alone to fight, and she will escape far away. She will see the end of the battle with her own eyes. Win or lose. At this time, Yunwu is not in the mood to manage Huolinger. She just thinks that Huolinger will listen to her own words and leave first. She must be so weak that she would be very afraid of such things. I didn't pay attention at the moment. What? Feeling something different from before, ready to retreat? The woman's smiling face is charming and her body is shining with silver. Looking at the cloud dance is like looking at a person who is about to die. From the beautiful lips spit out the words, but it is very heartless. It's just a pity, now also want to leave, it's too late. Luxia tribe. Chi Yis takes out the key from the guard's clothes, releases the woman tied in the pool, turns around and intends to go out, but is held by the woman behind him. Oh wait, are you saving me? The woman asked, holding Chi Yi's clothes. The water on her hand had a rotten smell. Chi Yi's couldn't help frowning, and smell on oneself seemed to have no such flavor. So what? Chi Yi's waved the woman's hand down from her clothes, frowned tightly, and seemed very upset. She turned and walked forward. No way. The woman suddenly ran forward and yelled in a loud voice. She grabbed Chi Yi's arm and said, "If you save me and don't care about me, then if anything happens to me, it's yours and mine?" Chi Knight, already face such as frost, looked back, looked at the woman one eye. The eye does not take a trace emotion. "Do I know you?" Seeing Chi Knight go farther and farther, the woman turned her head and looked around. Almost all of them were soaked in water like herself. Some people have been in a coma, some people are still struggling in pain, some people seem to have stopped breathing. A cold shiver hurried forward a few steps, a hug Chi Knight's arm. "You can't do that," he said. "Save people to the end, send Buddha to the west. You saved me. How can you put me in such a place?" Chi Yis feels the blue veins on her forehead. She clenches her fists and gives up the idea of trying to knock the woman unconscious. She throws her away and goes on. "Hello, hello." The woman rushed over and followed Chi Yis. "But who are you?" "My name is Tao Li." Chi Yis clenched his teeth and continued to walk forward, seemingly deaf. "Hello. I've already told you your name. You have to give it back." Women continue to nag around Chi Yis. In such a big cell, there are all women's voices, which makes the eyes of countless people around them look at such a person. Chi Yis was very upset. She turned her head, raised her hand and pressed the woman on the door of the cell. She said coldly, "If you dare to say one more word from now on, believe it or not, I'll throw you into the cell and continue to lock you up." After listening to this sentence, Tao finally calmed down, covered her mouth carefully, and said nothing more. Chi Knight let go of Tao Li, turned to continue to walk. "Good for yourself." Tao Li looks at Chi Yi's back and opens her mouth. She just wants to say something, but suddenly remembers Chi Yi's words. She covers her mouth and chases Chi Yi's back in front of her. Chi Yi's looks at the endless water prison, but his heart is very heavy. It seems that this tribe is the place to abduct foreigners and eat them. But it's strange that I haven't seen any inspectors at all. 2 people continue to walk forward in this strange water prison. I don't know how long I have been walking. I finally see a separate room. There is no guard around the room and there is no sound. The door is closed. Chi turns his head and looks around. It seems that no one is coming. In order to find out the real situation of the water prison, Chi carefully steps forward, leans over and sticks his ear to the door, listening quietly. Inside, suddenly came a woman's cry for help. Chi was so scared that he turned pale. He stepped back and stood not far away, looking at the closed door in front of him. But at this time he couldn't hear. Tao Li stood behind Chi and looked at her curiously. Then she looked at the door. She went forward, looked up and down and asked, "Is there anything strange about this door? Look, it scares you like this." Chi pursed her mouth tightly and pondered for a long time. Suddenly she narrowed her eyes and said, "Go and listen. Can you hear the sound inside?" On hearing this, Tao Li suddenly came to the spirit. She suddenly laughed, ran to the door, put her ear on the door, and listened quietly. Chi, who was watching coldly, quietly looked at Tao Li. All of a sudden, Dolly screamed, took 2 steps back, and then sat down on the ground. The humidity made her jump. "Who's there?" In the water prison, there was a sudden roar. In the distance, Chi's nerves were tense, and his instinctive backhand touched his snake sword. But he didn't find it. He looked around and found a stick. He went up and took the stick in his hand. He protected Tao Li behind him and said nothing. In front of him, 2 men suddenly appeared, holding a torch and walking towards the inside. When they saw Chi, they were stunned. The man in front turned to look at the man behind and said, "Isn't this woman the one who has just been sent in?" "It seems so." Behind the man, Lingling nodded. "It seems that some silly." "You idiot, call someone. We can't beat this woman." The man in front slapped the man behind on the head, scared the silly man to shout, turned and ran in the direction of coming. "No! Kill the man is very speechless," help forehead sigh. But suddenly a face serious look to Chi Knight sneer. "Unexpectedly also let you escape." Seems to suddenly see the woman behind her, some surprised. "You actually released, eh?" "Of course." Chi Knight narrowed her eyes and held the stick tightly in her hand. It was obvious that this kind of weapon was not suitable for her. She was a little uneasy. She was afraid that with this woman, with this kind of weapon, she could not retreat completely. The man in front of him was not nervous at all. He laughed and shrugged. "Don't be so nervous. You know, if you are too nervous, the meat will not taste delicious. So keep a happy mood." The man sighed, Nozui toward the hut behind Chi, with a smile on his face. "In fact, you can turn around and have a look in that room." Looking a little ugly, Chi turned his head, glanced at the wooden door behind him, frowned and looked at the man. "What's that?" The man didn't speak, still smiled to see to Chi Knight, very proud appearance. But the woman behind Chi has already swallowed saliva and walked toward the wooden door, carefully looking around. Finally, holding the door handle, creak and pull the door open. But all of a sudden, the woman screamed wildly and quickly retreated behind her. But her left foot tripped her right foot, and she sat on the ground. Even so, she was still scared back, until she retreated to the gate of a water prison, grabbed the gate of the water prison, and began to cry. Finally, Chi Knight also face pale, slowly turned around. This time, Chi finally couldn't help it. Covering her mouth, she ran to one side and vomited out. Behind the door is a woman. No, to be exact, a woman who has been amputated, but is still alive. The ground was dyed bright red with blood dripping. The woman was dug out of her eyes and looked forward empty. She was hung on the wall, but still cry for mercy. "I beg you to let me go, let me die, I beg you." Chi, who was shocked both physically and mentally, wiped his mouth, bit his teeth, raised his hand, picked up the stick and attacked the man. Scum! At this time, the man finally knew that he was afraid, because Chi's powerful aura made him feel suffocated. He stepped back 2 steps and turned to look behind him. Behind him, suddenly a large group of people rushed over, shouting, noisy voice and footsteps, let the man in front of a flash, laughing at Chi. "I said, little girl, no matter how powerful you are, I will not believe that you can beat us and get out of here with this woman." As soon as the voice fell, Chi Yil suddenly roared. Chi attacked the man's face. In the moment when the man raised his hand to block it, he took Tao Li to run to the back of the wooden house. Don't run. Stop! The man was so angry that the two men ran farther and farther before meeting each other, and said to the people around him, Go, catch her for me. It's delicious. How can you just run away like this? The people behind them should be in unison, running towards two people with swords. They didn't know how far they had run, until they slowly came to an open space. Tao Li finally threw away Chi Yi's hand, bent down, put her hand on her knee, and gasped violently. No, I can't run anymore. You'd better run if you want to run. Chi Yi's gasped for breath, pulled Tori's hand, and then pulled forward. I said I can't run. Tao Li threw Chi Yi's hand away and sat down on the ground, saying nothing. Anyway, we can't escape. There are so many people here. There are only two of us. What can we do? Standing beside Tao Li coldly, Chi Yi looks at Tao Li for a long time. Finally, with a sneer, he raises his hand and cuts Tao Li's neck. The woman fell to the ground before she could shout. Chi Yi bent down to help the woman up and walked forward. He could have retreated, but Chi could not bear to think of the woman's tragic appearance in the hut. But in this way, it slows down its own speed. Sure enough, after a while, a group of people behind had caught up with them, surrounded them and pointed their swords at them. Chi Yi could only put down Tao Li in silence, observing the surroundings indifferently with his bare hands. I advise you to give up your hand, one of the men said. You know, none of our prey has ever come out. Around the men with a mocking smile to see Chi Knight. Chi Knight while a group of people in the east and west, and looked at the scenery around. Not far from the body, there was a door, shining from the outside. It can be seen that there must be a door to the outside world. However, it's difficult to solve the problems in front of these people. I turn my head and look at the comatose woman behind me, which is also the biggest trouble. Several men gradually surround Chi Yi's in the middle, and no one intends to get out of the way. However, Chi Yi's strong aura almost makes these people kneel down. Sure enough, he had strong willpower, which made Chi Yi's heart sink. If it goes on like this, I don't know if I can escape from here smoothly. Maybe I have to implicate a woman. Give it to me. A man yelled at countless people around him. In an instant, all the men around him swung their swords and rushed up. I have known for a long time that this woman is not simple, so no one is careless. However, these people did not pay attention to Chi Yi's. She knocked down a group of people, turned around, picked up Tao Li on the ground, and rushed to the side door. The men were very unconvinced. They got up from the ground and ran towards Chi Yi's. I'm in trouble, Chi Yi's thought in his heart, but he was looking around to find a weapon for himself. However, he only found an iron pole. This is okay. Chi Yi's puts Tao Li on the side of the door, takes the iron pole from the other side, packs the iron pole and attacks several people. Those people hurriedly alert. See Chi Knight rushed over, a few men scared to escape. Chi Knight rushed to empty. Damn it. Chi Knight at this time in the heart is very depressed, but mercilessly, toward a man in front of the head hit. At this time, the Xiao tribe was immersed in the spirit of extermination. Shangguan vomited blood and turned pale. Although so, but always protect in the South Palace body in front of, fiercely stare to go up the official Li way. I advise you to still give up this idea. I won't let you succeed. Shangguan Li laughed like he heard the funniest joke in the world. After a long time he finally stopped. Suddenly he looked up at Shangguan with a sneer on his face and said with a sneer, If you say that to me, it's really beyond your ability. Shangguan grits his teeth, turns his head and glances at Nanganji. Nanganji on the other side is closing his eyes and breathing with ease. He turns his head and laughs ferociously, and stabs Shangguan with his sword. Shangguan Li didn't pay attention to this attack at all. He put out 2 fingers to clamp Shangguan's sword body and flicked back. He saw Shangguan stagger back several steps and fall in front of Nangong-yi. His face was pale and transparent. Nangong-yi finished his work in a hurry, opened his eyes, stood up and protected himself in front of Shangguan. Nanganji, It seems that you have to go with us this time, otherwise, Shangguan may have to explain here today. Shangguan Li Yunlight said. Of course you can rest assured. You are now injured, there will be us to heal you. In this case, I may be able to put Shangguan away of life. Shangguan, who was lying behind Nangong Yi, suddenly jumped up, gritted his teeth and said, You think it's beautiful? Even if I give up my life today, I will. Before he finished speaking, Shangguan Li suddenly raised his hand and patted it on Shangguan's chest. However, before the palm of his hand hit Shangguan's chest, Shangguan turned pale and fell on his knees, gasping. To me, you are in such a state. It's really pitiful. So you don't have to boast any more, he said, suddenly raise a hand. Will South Palace a grasp come over? Buckle his neck, let him breathe. Nangong Yi clenches his teeth and can't breathe anymore. He just pulls Shangguan's hand hard. However, the hand did not move. Shangguan Li looked at Shangguan very proud. When Shangguan saw that Nangong Yi had fallen into Shangguan Li's hands, his heart sank and he rushed forward, but Shangguan Li suddenly increased his strength. Nangong Yi coughs twice and purses his lips tightly. I think you'd better let him go. Shangguan clenched his fist and thought for a long time before he finally said slowly. That thing is not on Nangong Yi at all. We have been sent to other places separately. We don't know who it is. Shangguan Li suddenly frowns. Looking at Nangong Yi's pale face, Brick suddenly smiles coldly. He presses Nangong Yi on the wall and raises his hand to Shangguan. Because of his great strength, Shangguan was knocked down on the wall before he could deal with it. With a roar, countless stones collapsed. Shangguan's mouth gushed blood and lay on the ground. His eyes were black. However, the fighting spirit in his body suddenly surged up. It seemed that he was about to break through. Shangguan moved in his heart and quickly turned over, sat up and closed his eyes. A kind of villager standing outside is watching the situation in Beijing Spring curiously. But when he heard the fighting inside, he didn't know what happened. Xiao Wu stood beside Xiao Xingjie with a look of remorse. He thought that if he hadn't let Lord Wuzong go out, it might not have happened. All of a sudden, a cloud rolled in the sky, and everyone was stunned on the spot. Xiao Xingjie was even more startled, pointing to the dark clouds in the sky and shouting, Someone has broken through again. Yes, the Shangguan, who sits on the knee in Beijing Quan, absorbs the essence of Beijing Quan, and suddenly breaks through Emperor Wu under severe injuries. Looking at the Shangguan Li in front of him, and taking Nangongji to Beijing Spring, there was a burst of anger in Shangguan's heart. He only heard the roar and thunder in the sky. It seemed that he was going to split down. Shangguan Li couldn't help looking up, looking at the black clouds in the sky, turned his head to Shangguan and said with a smile, It's not bad. I've made a breakthrough, boy. I'll take this man with me. Wait. Shangguan suddenly roared, stood up and rushed to Shangguan. It's not so easy to go. Say already toward the chest of upper official Li pats in the past. It's too much for me. Shangguan seemed a little impatient. He waved and patted Shangguan. I don't have time to joke with you. Turn around and continue to walk forward. Shangguan doesn't give up. Looking at Tianlei, he seems to be about to split off. Suddenly he rushes forward, grabs Shangguan Li's arm and grabs Nangong Yi's arm. Curse, Shangguan Li can only loosen Nangong Yi to avoid Shangguan's attack. Just at this time, a sky thunder cleaved towards Shangguan and Shangguan Li. The silver light twinkles, the whole cave into a sea of thunder, as if the most beautiful color in the world. If the current environment is not too dangerous. I'm afraid Cloud Dance really wants to enjoy the beautiful scenery at this time. Force me to use half the power of my real body. You are still the first in thousands of years. The enchanting voice of the woman is particularly cold. Although she has a smile on her face, she looks at the Cloud Dance as if she is looking at a dead man. Yunwu tightly pursed his lips and did not speak. He held the sword tightly in his hand and stared at the front without blinking. Overhead is a sky formed by lightning, and at the foot is a sea of lightning. Between the sky and the sea, countless thunder and lightning circulate with each other, making a zzzz sound from time to time. I don't know if it's the reason why the opposite woman can control it. In this long time there was no lightning hitting the clouds. It just kept flowing, as if it was disturbing something. Hum. The woman snorted coldly, as if laughing at Yunwu and pretending to be calm. I'll give you a chance. If you can take my move, I will admit that you are qualified to inherit the master's inheritance. Cloud Dance's eyes unchanged, as if did not hear the temptation of women's words in general. From the initial defeat of women to now, as long as you take the next move, you will be able to succeed. This is a big gap. If ordinary people naturally agree. But Cloud Dance is not stupid. She knows what kind of power that move contains. I'm afraid even if he used pure yang also can't stop. What's more, this kind of power is only half of the real power of the woman in front of her eyes. If there were no rules of this grave, how good would this woman's real power be? A move. Cloud Dance squinted, as if thinking for a long time in general, murmured. The woman's eyes flashed a touch of ridicule. Heart Cloud Dance, after all, or heart? Yes, as long as you take one move, you can achieve your goal. The whole tomb is yours. But if you can't take it, I'm afraid that after this move, you will lose everything. Don't talk about the body, even the soul will disappear. I only ask you, dare you? Dare you? The arrogant and domineering voice resounded throughout the cave, like provocation. Although the strength of Cloud Dance surprised her, after all, Cloud Dance was only the strength of Emperor Wu. It was too far from her master's realm. She was not willing to let go. Cloud Dance coldly looking at her. Although the heart knows the difficulty of this move, but what she wants, will rely on their own strength to get. If today she can't get this woman's recognition, I'm afraid that even if she runs away, she won't have a chance with this grave. The most important thing is that she dances around and never deserts. Why not? Yunwu also responded in a loud voice, as always domineering and confident. By now she had everything in mind. The fate of her Cloud Dance will not stop here. It's just a small move. Why can't it come down? Don't forget she has a more important mission. Well, if you dare. The woman said with a sneer. In her opinion, Yunwu is just like this. She gambles her life for a temptation. At present, the impression of Cloud Dance is a little worse. In the cave, thunder and lightning roared, like rain coming and wind filling the building. Since you dare, you can connect me. The woman cold drinks, 9 huge tails in the back of a meal, and then more quickly swing up. The woman's whole body flew directly into the air, looking down at the clouds. At the same time, the sky and sea formed by thunder and lightning also become thunderous in an instant, as if they would swallow up the clouds at any time. Thunderbolt. To this moment finally began. Cloud Dance's eyes are slightly heavy. Looking at the woman's coquettish face, she suddenly chuckles and says, I think you are full of thunder and lightning here. It's too monotonous. Why don't I stick to you again? The woman was stunned, and then directly ignored the words of Cloud Dance, and only took her words as a joke, which was used to distract her. It was harmless. But Yunwu didn't think so. The next moment, she really helped the woman. Rich elements of water emerged from the body, and then quickly divided into two, toward the lightning convergence of the sky and the sea. The woman's face was shocked, and her voice became sharper. You are crazy. Who doesn't know that lightning will spread faster when encountering water? And it will naturally make the attack power more powerful when used in combat. Yunwu is about to be attacked by this move, but she not only doesn't want to avoid it, but also adds water element in it. It's not death. What is it? Yunwu lowers her head slightly, with a crazy smile on her face. The action on her hand is ceaseless, and the water elements are converging in the thunder sea, with a look of self-seeking death. The woman's face became heavy. Originally my own thunder element was incomparably majestic. Now I added water element in it. I'm afraid that if I really attack, the whole cave will collapse. Although the tomb was arranged by the owner himself, and every place is very firm, after all, there has never been such a powerful battle. Now women are worried about the tomb. But now that the move has started, it's impossible to stop. Seeing that Yunwu did not pay attention to her words, the woman took a deep breath and looked at Yunwu coldly and said, Since you want to die, I will help you. Take this move. Having said that, the sky and thunder sea resonated at the same time. The roaring sound seems to be in the boundless ocean, encountering a tsunami, but Yunwu is just an ordinary fisherman boat. Being overturned by the vast ocean is just an instant thing. Sister Yin. Hualinger cries out anxiously in his heart, but he tries to cover his mouth to keep himself from making a sound, for fear that Cloud Dance will be distracted because of his own problems. At the moment when the silver light resonates, the action on Yunwu's hand stops, and his eyes are burning at the rolling silver light. Once again, Cloud Dance's palm is no longer pure water element. The purple fighting spirit takes the lead, wrapping the body tightly, adding the most solid defense for itself. Then on the hands, the power of colorful elements constantly emerges, jumping in the palm. Blue, red, silver, green, white, 5 elements. It's the 5 elements that Cloud Dance used to gather into the sword before. The 5 elements are jumping in the hand, but this time, they are not converging into a sword, but are jumping steadily in the palm of the hand. I don't know what to do next. The woman's eyelids unconsciously jumped for a while. Looking at the Cloud Dance, she didn't understand what she was going to do. Did she just attack with the 5 elements at the same time? Or for defense at the same time? Although I don't know what Yunwu wants to do, it doesn't affect her attack. When the whistling of the sky and sea reaches a certain stage, the woman drinks coldly, and the silver light is directly engulfed by the clouds. As if I could not swallow the sky and spit the earth. Almost. Cloud Dance looks at the species element on the hand and says softly. The next moment, when the silver light is shining, there is a crazy flash in Yunwu's eyes. The 5 elements are instantly mixed together with a strong clap of both hands. Once upon a time, she used element balls mixed with several elements as an attack, and the explosive force caused by the repulsion between each element is unparalleled. Now at this critical juncture, Cloud Dance can only think of this move. When the palm unfolds again, a 5-color ball leaps up on both hands. Cloud Dance a little thought, followed by a left hand, and is an element of jumping in the palm. Cloud Dance without hesitation directly put the 6th element into the ball. Poo-poo. When the 6th element is shot into the ball, Yunwu directly gushes out with a mouthful of blood, and a burst of chi and blood in his chest, but the madness in his eyes is more intense. 5 elements. If she can maintain the balance of the situation, not hard to achieve the maximum integration. And 6 elements, Cloud Dance is the first experiment. She knows she can do it, but the premise is that she is injured. If you lose 800, you can hurt 1000. In such a critical moment, as long as we can survive, even such tactics must be used. In the glittering silver light, women can't see what action Cloud Dance has. I just felt that after a long time, there was no movement there. I thought that the other side was ready to take this move. There was a hint of irony in my eyes. How can Emperor Wu's defense block her attack? Looking at the oncoming silver light, he rushed towards himself, as if to swallow himself in. Compared with that, the ball in his hand was very vulnerable. But Cloud Dance doesn't mean to be afraid at all. There was only a layer of purple fighting spirit on her body to protect her, and all the others were blocked on the small ball in her hand. She knows a word. The best defense is attack. Therefore this time, she put all her hopes on the attack in her hands. Success or failure depends on this. Silver finally arrived in front of Cloud Dance's right hand, gently raised, as if inadvertently in action in general. Without any lethality, the small ball on the hand was thrown out immediately, crossed an arc with or without, and went away with the silver light. In the overwhelming momentum of the silver light, a 6-color ball is very eye-catching, but also very small. What's that? The woman's sharp eyes saw the existence of the 6-color ball, and she was stunned. When did the ball appear? Why don't you feel it all the time? Even now, the woman has seen the existence of the ball, but she still doesn't feel her breath. But in the next moment, the woman finally understood what it was. Originally wanted to control the silver light, easily destroyed the ball, but when the lightning came into contact with the colorful ball, it was still a silent ball, suddenly changed shape. 6-color ball constantly shaking, as if shivering in the rainstorm of a lonely boat, but the shaking makes women very uneasy, always feel like what is going to happen. No, I have to destroy him. The woman's brow a wrinkly coldly say. Immediately after, More urged the silver light toward the six-color ball attack in the past. At this time, the six-color ball shaking suddenly stopped, as if to the extreme of tolerance in general, and finally broke out. It's like heaven and earth are falling apart, and it's like back to Panga's grand opening of heaven and earth. That force seems to be able to urge all the elements in the world, so that the whole universe can be destroyed to the point of all desolation. Women just feel that they have never encountered such a strange power, even when they are with their masters. Only at this time did she know what the ball was, a ball of 6 elements. The mutual exclusion between elements is the most intense, not to mention the 6. When these 6 forces all burst out, each element is pulling the power of crying ghosts, as if it can pull out every element in the whole space. At that moment, it seemed that the 6 elements in the surrounding environment were boiling up. Women can't imagine that this kind of power would come from the hand of Emperor Wu. But it wasn't just that shocked her. If you want to take my move with this power, then even if you go on, I'm afraid you will become a useless person. After a short shock, the woman forced herself to calm down and uttered this sentence coldly. After the silver light, the cloud dances coldly looking at the explosion in front, and the body quickly retreats. After listening to the woman's words, the corners of his mouth hook released a response. I give you more than these surprises. As soon as the woman's eyes sank, she didn't know what else Cloud Dance would do next, but at this moment, it's better to suppress the riot as soon as possible. At the moment, the woman immediately mobilized most of her strength to press towards the explosion place. But then the woman found something that shocked her even more. The silver light flickered with blue water element light, which was the power of Cloud Dance in the initial injection. I thought that the power would make my attack more powerful, but I soon found that it was not the same thing at all. The water never joined the women's attack. They have been controlled by the Cloud Dance. Up to now, Cloud Dance simply let go, no longer to maintain the balance between water elements and lightning, directly let go. In an instant, the repulsive collision between water elements and lightning elements in the whole cave. Taking the explosion of the 6-color ball as the center, the sound of explosion was heard one after another. Different from the 6-color ball, these explosions are from the inside of women's attack, constantly weakening women's attack power. How could that be? Women can't believe looking at everything in front of them. She didn't realize the purpose of Cloud Dance just now. If it wasn't for what happened now, she even thought that Cloud Dance was really stupid to add water element to increase attack. A coquettish face is full of disbelief, but the fact happened in front of us. Even if we don't believe it, we can only believe it. In contrast, Yunwu on the other side looks pale, as if she has consumed too much strength after finishing these 2 things, as if she will faint on the ground at the next moment, but her face is still not convinced. Well, what's up? I didn't let you down, did I? Yunwu raises her head and looks at the woman's position through the silver light. Although we can't see the woman's figure and expression, we can see the 9 huge tails shaking. From seeing the 9 tails, Yunwu knew the identity of this woman. 9-tail fox only exist in the legend of Warcraft. That is, only in ancient times there will be Warcraft, to now has basically disappeared. At least live so long. Cloud Dance has never seen any human with 9-tail fox news, let alone adult, even if it is not a cub. It is said that the 9-tailed fox is one of the famous beasts. It lives on the Green Hill and has various attributes. So when Yunwu knew the identity of a woman, she wanted to make a contract with her. Now it's time to take advantage of this fight to achieve her goal. Hearing the indifferent voice of Yunwu, the woman calmed down, looked at the direction of Yunwu, and said, "The water element is just for interference and uses the element ball to interrupt my attack. But obviously your plan failed. My moves don't end when it's over." The cloud dances around the corner of the mouth and no longer talks. From the beginning, she never thought that with these, she could completely block the attack. Whether it's the elemental ball or the water element, it's just to weaken it. Up to now, it really weakens women's attack to the point that they can resist. Although she is very weak at this time, don't forget that she still has a card to play. The woman mobilized the remaining strength. Although her strength was less than 1/3 of the original strength after 2 times of interference, It was enough to deal with a little Emperor Wu. Next, don't take it lightly anymore. Cloud Dance looks at the front with burning eyes. She knows that the next thing is the key to decide whether she is alive or dead. The attack weakens the opponent's attack. Next, it's time to test the defense. The final attack is finally coming. At the same time, a majestic force in the body was directly mobilized by the Cloud Dance, forming a layer of defense in addition to the purple fighting spirit on the body. That black energy, as long as a little bit, can be comparable to a lot of fighting spirit, as if all the energy of the Emperor in general, with unparalleled domineering. In the desert, when Meng Bai put on his clothes and looked out of the window, he found that he was still standing in the center of the desert. The endless golden sand of the desert was blowing away with the strong wind, with the desperation that made him afraid. Originally, he was rescued by a group of injured people who came out to do business. Now he is lying in their car. These people erect the felt mat they are carrying on the car to avoid the wind and light the fire. They are baking things. When they turn around and see Meng Bai standing in front of the window, a man comes to him with a smile and hands him a piece of meat, saying, "Eat, the road is still far away." Meng Bai was stunned and looked down at the meat delivered by the man. He smelled the fragrance from the meat in a moment, and his stomach could not help crying. So he took the meat and gave thanks to the man. He got out of the car and sat in the middle of a group of people. A man was chatting with people around him. Suddenly he saw Meng Bai and asked with a smile, "Little brother, how did you come here? Why are you fighting with a polypod?" Meng Bai bit down a piece of meat, scratched his head and said, "My friend and I got separated. When I opened my eyes, I was here. Then I met a multi-legged insect." Several people sighed, poured wine for Meng Bai, handed him a felt mat and said, "It's 3 or 4 days' journey from the nearest village. It's too far, so you should keep your strength well. I think you are seriously injured now." Meng Bai was very grateful in his heart, but looking at the endless desert and these people who seemed to be in a hurry, he hesitated. If he followed them, he might meet someone. But I don't know where I will be taken. If I go further away from my friends, it's not very bad. Looking up at the people in front of them, they are chatting enthusiastically. It seems that they are not worried about what kind of problems they will encounter in the desert. Meng Bai patted the man around him on the shoulder, turned around and asked, "Brother, I want to ask you, do you know what more dangerous warcraft is in this desert besides the multi-legged insect?" The man drank a mouthful of wine, let Meng Bai pick up the bowl and touch himself. Then he raised his head to drink, narrowed his eyes, took a breath, put down the bowl, patted Meng Bai on the shoulder and said, "Little brother, you can rest assured, follow us and make sure you won't be hurt." Meng Bai smiles and drinks a bowl of wine. Suddenly his whole body warms up, and even the wound on his body suddenly becomes less painful. Shaking his head, sighed, "Brother, it's not that I don't want to follow you, but because I have to find friends, so I can't stay long. Now I just think that maybe I can meet my friends in the desert. Maybe they are just like me, and they are facing such a dangerous warcraft." The man suddenly nodded, drank a mouthful of wine, loudly let people around stop talking, listened to him say, "I say you, this little brother just came to the desert. You quickly tell him, what kind of things will happen in the desert?" People around stop chatting. In a moment they look at Meng Bai with a serious face. Some even frown. Deep in the desert, things are not as simple as you think, you know, boy. The man around him patted Meng Bai on the shoulder, took a big sip of wine and said, "You don't know how many people we have died in the desert." Turning to look around, he said, "These people, who haven't lost their families." Those people all silent. For a long time, a man finally said, "In this desert, the multi-legged insect is probably the lowest level of warcraft, but every year because of this thing, countless people in each tribe will die. I've seen fire lizards." There was a man with his head down beside the fire, on his bright and dark face, inexplicably serious and murderous. "That thing ate my woman. It was 3 people long, and it could spout flames from its mouth, as if it was living under the desert." Meng Bai sits beside them, listening quietly, drinking wine and eating meat. People around him seem to have been triggered, and they all begin to tell. Meng Bai couldn't help but frown. How much danger is there in the desert? He didn't know where his friends were, and whether there was any danger. Until the sky turned pale, the cold night finally faded away, and soon the rising sun came to the horizon, and the whole desert soon became hot. The merchants put away the things they took out, put them back in the car, packed up their bags and prepared to leave. A man came up to Meng Bai and said, "Little brother, do you have any plans now?" Meng Bai was silent for a moment. He still gave a bitter smile and said, "Thank you for saving my life, but I have to go to my friend. I hope we can meet again." Then he turned and walked towards the desert. Boy behind him. The man suddenly stopped him, ran over, put a heavy fox fur dress and a bag of herbs into his arms, and said, "It seems that this night, you can't shake your heart to take risks at all. Well, I wish you a good journey. This dress is for you to stay on the road. The desert at night can't live without thick clothes. This package of herbs can help you improve your state and heal your wounds. It's all fate to meet each other in the desert. You take risks alone. This is what I can help you, and the rest is up to you." Meng Bai was so moved that he didn't know what to say. He bowed to thank him and left without looking back. Quietly walking in the desert, soon, behind the motorcade gradually away from sight, until disappeared in the desert. Meng Bai's ear, suddenly there is only a whir of wind, and a silence. That night, it was like a dream. After walking for a distance, Meng Bai found a small oasis, took some water there, sat on the ground and closed his eyes. Before the body of the explosion debris have been cleaned up by these people, leaving only some basically will not hurt the wound. The fighting spirit in his body is more than that of yesterday, which makes Meng Bai very happy. He opens his eyes, sits up, and begins to plan how to kill some warcraft and store some food to prepare for the hard journey. Thinking about this, I began to wander around the oasis. At noon, the hot weather made him very uncomfortable. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and vomited. Then he ran to the water and drank some water. He saw that there was no warcraft at all. So cut down 2 pieces of cactus and put them in the bag. The water in the middle is the most abundant, although its juice is not very good. Go around the puddle and continue to the desert. Suddenly, the water behind him clattered, and Meng Bai stopped and turned around. At a glance, I saw something on the surface of the water, and then disappeared. Meng Bai's heart moved, turned and walked quietly towards the water. His sword had been drawn out and put behind him, waiting quietly. Sure enough, for a long time I didn't hear much of the sound from the shore. The thing came out again. A pair of eyes looked at the water, and then climbed up. Seeing that it was time, Meng Bai quickly raised his sword and prepared to cut it down. This thing, suddenly out of the water, is so huge. Meng Bai looked up at the warcraft, which had to have 4 heights of his own, which made him swallow. Suddenly, I remember last night, a big brother said the thing called Shueisha eel. This thing stood up like a dragon, and was several people tall. It could spray water in its mouth or curl up in any small puddle to make a living by eating sand. At the thought of not eating meat, Meng Bai was suddenly relieved but laughed. "If you don't eat my meat, I want to eat your meat. Fly up and chop at the head of that thing." The water sand eel seemed to feel the danger, so it quickly withdrew, shrunk rapidly, curled up in the water, and only showed a pair of eyes. Meng Bai didn't give up and cut his eyes in the water. Hear the sound of water. The water suddenly a ripple, followed by a big tail toward Meng Bai. Meng Bai complained in his heart and turned to avoid it. He just avoided the tail in front of him. Then, a water arrow hit Meng Bai's back. To avoid it, Meng Bai took it hard, and his face turned white. He was surprised that the power of this thing was so great, and he cut it into the water with his backhand. Water sand eel seems very angry, suddenly stand up from the water, toward Meng Bai spray sleep. Suddenly countless water bombs toward Meng Bai hit, quickly find a cactus, squat behind. However, Meng Bai underestimated the power of the water sand eel. After a burst of water bombs came, the cactus behind him was beaten to pieces, and all the thorns on the cactus flew into his body. Let Meng Bai take a breath of cool air. Luck forces the thorn out of his body, and moves it towards the Shueisha eel in front of him. After all, Shueisha eel was not smart enough. Suddenly, Meng Bai cut a blood hole on his greasy body with a sharp roar, and the blood poured out. The whole body of Shueisha eel kept twisting, and then fell into the water with a plop. Mengbai goes forward in a hurry, stabs Shueisha-il to death with a sword, cuts the meat from Shueisha-il, scrapes off the skin of Shueisha-il, makes a water bag and fills a bag full of water. Then he carries water and is ready to go on the road. However, I didn't expect that the wind in the sky suddenly became stronger. As soon as it came out of the oasis, the yellow sand in the desert began to block out the sun. The rolling yellow sand suddenly turned the halo over the desert into a faint yellow, and the clear sun in the sky suddenly turned into a fuzzy yellow. All of a sudden, a gust of wind, with yellow sand like a knife, came. Mengbai quickly covered his face with his hand, and the wind and sand hit his arm. Although he was separated from his clothes, he also showed all the bloodstains on his arm. It's too windy. Mengbai felt that he couldn't move forward, so he had to sit on the ground, close his eyes and wrap himself up with fighting spirit. Suddenly, the pain relieved a lot, but the blood on the body was one by one. Even the whole skin could not be seen. Mengbai breathed and felt the wind blowing. He didn't know when the storm would pass. If it went on like this, he would die of exhaustion. Just thinking about this, suddenly, his keen hearing made him hear something crawling towards him not far in front of him. The speed was surprisingly fast, and it seemed that he was already in front of him in a twinkling of an eye. Mengbai suddenly opened his eyes, raised his palm and cleaved to the warcraft in front of him. Suddenly, a big mouth towards Mengbai opened, but in an instant Mengbai was repulsed, like just eat people's blood, let Mengbai a moment later. However, there were huge sandstorms all around him, and he could not see the situation in front of him at all. However, if not unexpected, he might have met the flaming lizard in one of the population. The hard shell made him feel like touching steel, and his heart went up to his throat, because fighting without knowing anything was the most dangerous thing. Luxia tribe. Qiyis didn't understand what kind of people Luxia tribe was, because the people who were standing in the way of themselves were not the climate. But all of a sudden, countless people appeared around them. Although their realm was under their own, they were very powerful. These 10 people blocked Qiyis in the water prison, which made Qiyis a little difficult. Turning to look at Tao Li on the ground, she was sleeping soundly. Qiyis vomited her breath, because if she woke up, she would drag herself down. Thinking like this, he clenched the steel pipe in his hand and threw it at a person's leg. The minions around him still have no strength. Under the attack of Qiyisi, they scream one by one, and there is no voice on the table. Qi Knight see in the eye, turn round to one side of the strength of the poor crowd attack. But people on the other side didn't seem to want to let her go at all, and besieged Qiyis. Qi Knight in a group of people in the struggle, very difficult, breathing heavily, holding the steel pipe hand are constantly shaking, sweating. And those people, obviously, haven't tried their best. He threw out a stick and knocked over a man. Suddenly, he heard a woman scream behind him, and suddenly thought, God help me, this cry. Immediately let everyone's eyes are focused on Tao Li. Qi Knight color scolded an idiot in the heart. Sure enough, the attack of all the people around him all attacks toward Tao Li. Qiyis was worried and turned to run towards Tao Li, but Tao Li in front of her screamed and ran away. This fool. Qi Knight color gas of roar, will in the hand of the steel stick toward chase Tao Li of person fly. After a few screams, several men behind Tori fell to the ground. However, a man behind Qiyis suddenly took advantage of this, and slapped Qiyis on the back. Qi Knight suddenly a mouthful of blood spurted out, almost fell down, wiped the blood of a corner of the mouth, or ran toward Tao Li. Come here. Don't run, Qi shouts in the night. But the woman had already cried and ran about in the room. Qiyi's face turned pale. After 2 steps, she had stopped panting and turned pale. Come and help me. I'm going to be killed. Tao Li cried out and ran towards Qiyi's, but after 2 steps, she suddenly turned pale, and fell to the ground with a plop. Qi Knight suddenly realized that the air may be toxic. He turned his head and looked at the man in front of him coldly, but the man in front of him laughed and came forward. The ecstasy I scattered in the air really works. After a while, you can't stand up. It's really a happy thing for everyone. Qiyis clenched her teeth, suddenly stood up and rushed to the man in front of her. But the man is not flustered at all. Just raise a leg to come. One foot kicks on Qi Yi's belly, one foot kicks her to fall on the ground. This foot seems to have no power in Qi Yi's eyes, but his body just can't move, which makes Qi Yi's very helpless. He can only let that foot put on his stomach and fall to the ground. The man stepped forward 2 steps, grabbed Qi Yi's collar and said with a smile, "Such a beautiful man. How can he be a lion-like character? It's really bad." Said, raised a hand toward Qi Yi's chest to clap past. The fighting spirit of cyan color, although in Qi Yi's eyes there is no fierce appearance, but with Qi Yi's body now, she can't protect herself at all. Can turn around to dodge, raise a hand to split to grasp own hand. Wave that person's hand to open. Behind her, Tao Li suddenly screams, which makes Qi Yi's turn her head quickly. However, she sees Tao Li who has been forced to the wall. She looks at the man rushing over and looks pale with fright. Qi Yi's raises her leg and kicks the man in front of her. She turns around and pours at Tao Li's eye. This woman is a real waste. Qi Knight thought that she had put Tao Li under her body. Behind him, the man raised his knife and cut them down. Suddenly, Qi Yi's face turned white, and she felt that her back was wet and sticky. The blood slowly stretched out her head along her clothes, which made her face pale. Looking at Qi Yi's, he stuttered and touched the clothes behind him. In his voice he cried, Why don't you get away?" Hard to turn over and sit on the wall. Qi Yi's took a breath, looked up at the men who had surrounded the 2 people in front. Very helpless. "Regret to save you." With a bitter smile, he stood up against the wall and walked towards the man in front of him. "Hello, I ask you." Qi Yi's lowered her head and turned pale. But the natural aura let the man in front of her know that she was seriously injured, but still some retreat, forced himself to straighten his waist. "What's the matter?" The man shouts. The man around him surrounds Qi Yi's in the middle, and no one is going to give in. Do the people in the city know that all they eat are human flesh? Qi Knight bent down. "We'll just throw away the steel stick picked up," toward the men to see. Naturally, the man was smiling. Are the people in the city willing to eat human flesh? She threw the steel stick, step by step, slowly toward the men in front of her. Naturally, the man continued to answer, looking very leisurely. "That's enough." Qi Knight cold humme. The corners of the mouth evoke a faint smile, but in the eyes, murderous and originally confused trance eyes, has a blood red. The tomb left by the ancient summoner is in a cave. The coquettish woman couldn't believe that she felt the sudden breath, as if she saw something terrible. No, it's impossible. How can there be such a strong breath? What power is that? Isn't she Emperor Wu? How can there be such a strong breath? Blindly say don't believe, but the atmosphere around is too strong to oneself can't ignore. Women can only watch each other's strong. But now she can't stop, even if she already knows what the result will be after her move is released. The woman took a deep breath and managed to calm herself down. What about strong breath? She is only Emperor Wu after all. All over the sky of silver light mercilessly toward the cloud, without meaning soft. Even now, she still meticulously fulfill her promise before, after using half of her real body. She tries her best to attack Yinwu. Finally, Cloud Dance's whole body is wrapped in the power of evil bite, looking at the oncoming silver light murmuring. The Cloud Dance wrapped by the power of evil bite is like a hard stone. Even if her strength is only the realm of Emperor Wu, the power of evil bite still protects her tightly. After the last experience of Blood Corpse Land, her manipulation of the power of magic bite has gone to a higher level, and she can control the power of magic bite with more energy. At this critical juncture today, it's natural to use the idea. It's all over now. Cloud Dance's eyes are firm, and the power of magic bite on her body is a bit more intense. In the corner not far away, Huolinger, who has never left, looks at everything in front of her in shock. At this time, she doesn't know what to do. Sister Yin used to be so powerful. This is the only idea in Huolinger's heart now. Now for the first time, she thinks that Yinwu can defeat the woman opposite. The collision came in the expectation of the 3 people. The silver light and the power of magic bite collided together, but surprisingly there was no expected explosion. When the silver arrives, the power of magic bite has the dignity of a strong one, as if it can make any force submit to its own feet. The silver light is almost a retreat, and even can't go any further after touching the power of magic bite. The woman's calm face drives the force forward again. But at this time, the power of magic bite seemed to be angered, suddenly rose, directly swallowed the silver light. The majestic power has no effect in front of the power of magic bite, as if two beasts are fighting. If even that power can roar, you must hear the scream of the silver light at this time. The woman's face became very pale. She felt her own strength was so fragile before that very angry power. Even she could not do anything to recover. It would be a piece of cake to deal with that force if she opened all her real body, but now she only uses half of her real body power. She can't resist. What to do? Do you want to open all the real bodies? The woman is tangled in her heart, looking at the light in front of her, and there is no action. Her bet with Yunwu is to let her take this move. Although she didn't say it clearly refers to the move in the half-body state. If at this time she opened all the real body in order to win, she would not feel happy even if she won. But if you are so familiar, will the inheritance of the master really be handed over to the person who is Emperor Wu? Can she grow up high enough? Women's heart entangled at the same time. Cloud Dance is also entangled. The power of magic bite is one of their most powerful cards. At this time also forced out. If at this time the opposite woman reproduce a complete body, I'm afraid they don't have more power to bear. Both of them are worried about the same thing. The ultimate key to this battle is whether women will choose to fight with all their noumenon. A little bit of time passed, and finally, the power of magic bite completely suppressed the silver light, and the battle finally ended with women's failure. I lost. Looking at the disappearing silver light, the woman murmured that she didn't think she would lose one day. Cloud Dance also breathed a sigh of relief. This just completely took back the power of evil bite. At the same time, Yunwu's body trembled and groaned. His face turned pale as if he was trying to endure something. After a long time, he finally returned to normal. Sister Yin. Huolinger ran forward and quickly held Yunwu, which didn't make her fall. Cloud Dance's face is pale and frightening. It's not strange to see Linger around. I think I already know that Huolinger hasn't left. But at that time in the battle, she could not distract to drive him away, had to let her stay. What she can do is to try to block all the attacks and not let the fire spirit be affected. In fact, she did. Although the battle was dangerous, Huolinger was not affected at all. Sister Yin, how are you? Huolinger anxiously looks at Yunwu. Although her eyes are still bright and clear, Huolinger can feel that Yunwu's breath is very disordered. Cloud Dance had no choice but to smile for a while. He was not proficient in using the power of magic bite. Every time he used it, he would have some influence on himself. In fact, it's not a big deal this time, just a little breathing, but the opposite woman is still standing there. How can she just fall down? You lost. Cloud Dance let oneself steady rely on work properly sun to stand. Looking at the woman opposite coldly say. The woman's complexion is complex, so she hesitates all the time. Until the end of the battle, she can't make up her mind to show her whole body, and finally missed the chance to kill Yunwu. At the thought of becoming the contract beast of the man in front of her in the future, the woman's heart was mixed for a moment. Perhaps just now really should present the complete noumenon. Even if has destroyed own before the promise, also cannot let own master's inheritance fall to this person's hand. Until now, women still think that Yunwu is not qualified to inherit the inheritance of the tomb owner. In fact, before his master died, he had contacted them. It's just that they are so loyal that they stay here, waiting for the next successor. Although the contract has been lifted, but after seeing the glory of the former master, no matter who is in the eyes of women, they can't compare with the people they once worshipped as idols. So although Cloud Dance shows such strength at this time, it still can't satisfy her. But the bet was made by herself, and she couldn't go back on it. At the moment, under the gaze of Yunwu and Huolinger, he recovered his human form and walked slowly towards Yunwu. The step stands in front of Cloud Dance, and the woman's face is calm, as if it is not her who is about to be contracted. Do it. The woman stood quietly in front of the cloud dance and said, but deep in her eyes, she was unwilling. Although willing to gamble and admit defeat, he did not agree with Yunwu from the bottom of his heart. Cloud Dance naturally saw that in her eyes is not willing, only to now also have to contract. She defeated this woman with so much effort. Now her breath is disordered, and the summoner can't summon her. If she doesn't contract with her, I'm afraid that the next fight will suffer greatly. Since this woman is so unwilling to be contracted by herself, it is necessary to wait until the matter in the tomb is solved and her fighting capacity is restored before contacting her. After making up her mind, Yunwu no longer hesitated. She reached out and began to see the woman in front of the contract. A flash of light, the call to the formation of women slowly shrouded in it. Huolinger opened her eyes and looked at all this. It was the first time that she saw the existence of the summoning array and the seriousness of the cloud dance contract. Suddenly, she had a great curiosity about the vocation of summoner. Little by little, Huolinger stood quietly and didn't dare to disturb, until the light flickered once and finally disappeared in front of him. Huolinger finally came forward to help Yunwu. When the contract is completed, the woman in front of her has officially become the summoner of cloud dance. No matter what Yunwu thought, at least now with the role of contract, this woman is Yunwu. What do I call you? Cloud Dance looks at in front of this enchanting woman to ask away. Little Nine, said the woman. With the role of the contract, Small Nine unwilling to reduce a lot, but still remember what happened before. Looking at Yunwu, her eyes softened and her charming smile reappeared. Cloud Dance nodded. I now put you back to space, can you still come out? Small 9-1 slightly thought for a while, then shook his head. Can't. There are prohibitions in this grave. As long as you enter the space, you can't be called again. Yunwu's own guess is right. Fortunately, she didn't let her go back to the space directly after the contract. Otherwise, there would be no summoner around her at this time. Between them, Huolinger suddenly found something on one side, and an exclamation interrupted them. What's the matter? Cloud Dance. Two people shun Huolinger's line of sight to see. Sea cave all around. Don't know when unexpectedly appeared a crack. It's just that the cracks are not like the cracks between the stones, but like the cracks between some energies. Oh no. The previous fighting fluctuated so much that there were cracks in the space here. Space? Huolinger asked suspiciously. It's a cave. How can we say it's space? A touch of anxiety flashed across Xiaojiu's charming face. The cave itself is an independent space made of space elements. Now after such fierce fighting fluctuations, it will collapse soon, and then we will all be washed into the turbulence of space. We'll leave as soon as we can while there's just a crack, and then we'll completely destroy this space, so that no one else will be killed. No one has ever really seen the turbulence in space, and those who break into it will never come back. So a small 9 said. Cloud Dance and Fire Spirit Sun. Two people's faces appeared a touch of moving, hurriedly toward the direction of coming. Three figures raised their own speed to the maximum, but the cracks in the cave are also expanding. Change 10 into 100, change 100 into 1,000. The speed of expansion is faster and faster. And even later there has been a piece of space. Where is the exit of this space? How can I get out? Huolinger asked out of breath. In order to prevent intruders from discovering the layout of the tomb, the entrance and exit of the space are not certain, and the entrance is just where you came in before. There are many exits, but I can't find them now. Small 9 anxious response way. How many times have I seen the curse of the intruder, who couldn't fly because of the prohibition of the tomb? Xiaojiu is gloating on one side, but now, she wants to swear. Good grave. Why should we leave so many prohibitions? Cloud Dance's forward step suddenly stopped. Do you mean that the exit here may not go anywhere, and the place we came in before may not be able to go out? All the steps of Xiaojiu and Huolinger stopped. Xiaojiu bit his lip and said, yes. If anyone passes me normally, I should erase this layer of space directly. But now the space cracks have appeared, and my previous method of erasing the space doesn't work. After all, I'm not a space warcraft. As soon as Xiaojiu's words were finished, Huolinger's face turned pale. What? You're not sure if the previous entrance can get out? Are we going to be stuck here? Small 9 difficult nodded. Now only to that place to try. Cloud Dance looked at the cracks growing around, and the look on her face was particularly serious. I'm not sure if I can do it, but now I have to try. Cloud Dance serious say. The pure and cold voice seemed to be able to smooth Fire Spirit Sun, and Small 9 in the heart of Fret General. Small 9 One Lung, she how forget, oneself now of Master also is a summoner that has space element. Xiaojiu come on I'll do it. Cloud Dance coldly orders away, tone no doubt. Only Xiaojiu is familiar with this space. With his reminder, it must be easier for him to do it. At the moment, Xiaojiu quickly nodded and went to Yunwu. The most important part of the space is the center, just as important is the center of the roof. Small 9's voice rings out, quickly reported 2 positions. The Cloud Dance palm turns. The rich space element rushes toward those 2 directions, quickly mending the above loopholes. The location of Tianxian seat, the location of Sanxian. Xiaojiu's voice calmed down slowly. The whole cave is like a night sky. It is divided according to the position of the constellations in the night sky. Every time Xiaojiu reports a place, Yunwu can find that place accurately. Finally, space elements are injected into it to repair the cracks. What Xiaojiu reported is the key position of this space. Space originally has the ability of self-healing. If it does not break several dead holes at the same time, it will not be like this. Therefore, the urgent task is to repair those key positions as soon as possible. The speed of Cloud Dance is very fast, but it is also slowly felt. The summoner of Shangguan is really powerful, but he has created a space, which is equal to the power of all his space. I can't fix it all. I can only delay as long as I can linger. Go and find the exit. Try to see if you can get out of the previous entrance Cloud Dance orders to. At the same time try to delay time. Huolinger calmed down as soon as he heard this, nodded immediately, turned his head and ran towards the direction. Xiaojiu's eyes are staring around the cave without blinking, carefully observing whether there are other key parts destroyed. The space power of Cloud Dance is continuously input. At last, the cracks in the crumbling space stopped temporarily. However, the power of Cloud Dance is really limited for this space, so it can only stop spreading. Little by little, it is not a long time, but it seems that it has passed several centuries. Hold on a little longer and she'll be right back. Small 9 anxiously says. Because of the contract, can clearly feel the breath of Cloud Dance in a little bit of weakness. Finally, the figure of Huolinger appeared in their sight again. Looking for I found it Huolinger ran out of breath. We couldn't get out where we came in before. I found another exit. As soon as these words came out, Xiaojiu couldn't help but feel lucky. Fortunately, he didn't keep running to the entrance before, otherwise all 3 of them would be killed. Let's go. The Cloud dances a cold hum. The superfluous words don't say anything. Once the strength on the hand closes, stop the space element to infuse. Turn round to pull Fireling ER and Small 9 to leave this place. Without the element injection of Cloud Dance, there are a lot of cracks in this space again, even faster than before. 3 heads did not return to the front running. Where's the exit? Cloud Dance coldly asks away. Near the entrance, you can see it there. Huolinger replied quickly. The speed of the 3 was even faster. The space behind seems to be corroded by something, and there are large-scale loopholes. Even through the loopholes, we can vaguely see the existence of space turbulence. Here we are. There it is. When he was about to reach the exit, Huolinger's eyes floated around looking for the exit. Finally, I saw the place I wanted to see. With a finger, I found a silver exit because of the destruction of the space. Go Cloud Dance a cold drink, a hand holding a person, want to also don't want to drill in. At the moment when the 3 figures left, the space behind was suddenly broken. Xiao tribe. A sky thunder roared, and split down towards Shangguan and Shangguan. Nangongyi looks at him, but he is very anxious. Now Shangguan is seriously injured. If this thunder strikes Shangguan directly, he may die. Nangongyi is ready to help, but he looks at Shangguan, but at the moment of thunder, he flies away. He turned his head and looked up at Shangguanli, but he was suddenly struck by the thunder. He stepped back a few steps and sneered. "Good boy." In an instant, he flew in front of Shangguan and clapped. However, just at this time, a sky thunder followed another sky thunder, and cleaved toward the Shangguan. No. Nangong-yi and Shangguan's heart sank at the same time. Nangong-yi almost didn't even think about it. He galloped forward and rushed to Shangguan to block Shangguan's hand. A mouthful of blood burst out, but Nangong-yi gritted his teeth, took Shangguan-li's hand and threw it at Shangguan. Nangong-ji, who has just broken through the Emperor Wu, is still difficult to confront Shangguan-li, but he is much stronger than before. Shangguan-li is dragged by him and staggers for several steps. He falls on Shangguan-li, and they fall to the ground together. Nangong-yi steps back and falls to the ground. His mouth gushes blood and he is unconscious. Shangguan sneers. He looks at Tianlei's attack. Shangguan's face turns white. He grits his teeth and stands up. At the same time, he cuts down several Tianlei's attack. Thunder robbery has passed. Shangguan looks at Shangguan-li's pale face. He is very proud and runs to Nangong-yi. But see South Palace lie on the ground, already have no consciousness in the heart a tight, turn ahead to see to take a fancy to Officer Li, coldly way. I advise you had better not follow now. Shangguan clenches his fists and stands in the same place. Suddenly he covers his mouth and nose with his hands. Shangguan lifts Nangong-yi up and walks out. It's poisonous in the air. Some of the people in the Gate of Beasts yelled. Shangguan coughed 2 times. Looking at the disappearing figure of them, he was silent for a moment. Let's go. Outside Peijing Spring. Ah. Come out. Come out, countless residents cried out. Shangguan, holding Nangong-ji with half blood red, staggered out of Peijing Spring. Seeing countless people waiting at the door, he laughed and fell to the ground. What's going on? Xiao Xingjia hurriedly told Xiao Wu and several people to come forward, pick them up and walk towards the tribe. At that time, I saw 2 thunderclouds clearly, that is to say both of them broke through. Xiao Xingjia murmured, looking at the 2 unconscious men, and taking a deep breath. Later, the 2 men broke through Emperor Wu's business in Peijing Spring on the same day, which became a local story, and made Peijing Spring set off a heat of cultivation. In order to avoid what Nangong-yi is worried about, Xiao Wu arranges both of them in his own home, and asks them to put them down and leave. Xiao Wu vomited and sat by the bed. He turned his head and looked at the 2 people sleeping quietly. Suddenly, Xiao Wu looks at Nangong-ji in surprise. He can't help but wonder that Nangong-ji's eyes are gone. Carefully looking at Nangong-ji's sleeping face, Xiao Wu can't help quietly reaching out his hand and touching Nangong-ji's forehead. He wants to see how amazing he is. But before he touched Nangong-yi's forehead, he felt the cool wind around him. In a twinkling, Shangguan's hand had caught his wrist. With a little effort, Xiao Wu suddenly burst into a cold sweat and laughed. That, brother, it's not what you think. I just want to have a look. Have you lived enough? Shangguan sat up with a pale face and a cold look in his eyes. He was frightened by Xiao Wu and quickly stepped back 2 steps. No, it's not what you think. Before Lord Wuzong, oh no, now I want to call Lord Wudi. I fainted in the poisonous fog. I brought him back, so I think. Shangguan rubs his head and breathes. He turns to Nangong-yi. Suddenly he is stunned and sees Nangong-yi lying beside him. This is the first time for Shangguan to see Nangong-ji's face. He has been relying on his body shape and breath to find his Shangguan. Suddenly he is confused. It turns out that Nangong-ji, who has always been mysterious, looks like this. Xiao Wu looks at the Shangguan on the bed and looks at Nangong-yi without blinking. He is puzzled. Scratching his head, he reached out and patted Shangguan on the shoulder. Well, brother, are you hungry or not? I'll go and cook some rice. I always said that the chicken left for Emperor Wu is still in the circle. I'll kill it. Congratulations on your breakthrough. In this way, the Shangguan heard a scream in his stomach, turned his lips, looked up at Xiao Wu, and said with a grin, "Thank you very much." Xiao Wu seemed to be flattered, nodded happily and went out in a hurry. Shangguan quickly sat cross-legged on the bed to recuperate. Nan Gongyi's quiet breathing makes Shangguan feel in a trance. After such a long time, it feels like a dream to finally meet his friend. The corner of the mouth slightly stir up a light smile. It wasn't until the afternoon that Nan Gongyi woke up from his sleep. When he opened his eyes, he saw that he was lying on the bed of Xiao Wu's family again. There was no one around him. His injury is still very serious. Nan Gongyi can't help but groan when he gets up. He gets out of bed and wants to walk outside. Then he suddenly remembers that he met Shangguan on the day of breakthrough in Peijing Spring. With a sudden pain in his chest, Nan Gongyi staggers 2 steps and holds the table. After a few breaths, he hears a joking voice from outside. Nan Gongyi, how can you not help beating? You can't do it just 2 times. With that, Shangguan opened the door of the house, holding a bowl of chicken soup in his hand and sitting at the table opposite Nan Gongyi. This is the soup made by Xiao Wu. It's to see you break through and make it up for you. Nan Gongyi almost instinctively raises his hand to his forehead, but he doesn't wear anything, and his face turns pale. What are you afraid of? Shangguan helpless. Quite normal, a person why wear veil all day. Nan Gongyi suddenly remembered that he had broken through Emperor Wu. That is to say, his third eye could be hidden. Think so, vomited a breath, to go up the officer to smile slightly. Really long time no see. Yes. Shangguan sighed. He put his hands behind his head and looked at the ceiling. I don't know where Yunwu is. Nan Gongyi took a sip of chicken soup and bowed his head to meditate. Shangguan looked around and found a room with no family. He couldn't help laughing and said, Sure enough, your treatment is still good. It's like me. I've been locked up in prison, and I'm not easy to release. But I want to catch someone. It's because of you that I came to help you. So we have to solve the conflict between the 2 tribes. Nan Gongyi said, but he couldn't help frowning. Of course, it's definitely not an easy thing. Eat. Xiao Wu brought in the hot food from outside the house and called them with a smile. Nan Gongyi looks at the rich dishes and doubts. Are these your own? I remember your home. Yes, I only have these things because I have saved Emperor Wu. So the patriarch has rewarded me with some money and food. You say it's because of me? Nan Gongyi can't help but frown. Is it because I'm the one they want to take away? Xiao Wu shook his head in confusion and nodded. Actually, I don't know, but what I know is that it is said that the people above said they would take you away. As if you were the one they need. Nan Gongyi and Shangguan looked at each other and lowered their heads. Sure enough, it's not your own contradiction that provokes the contradiction between your 2 tribes. The people of Wan's human deliberately point the contradiction at you. Shangguan clenched his fist and gritted his teeth. The people of the Beast Gate are really boring. Nan Gongyi lowered his head, thought for a moment and finally said, Xiao Wu, please take us to the patriarch. We have something important to discuss. Xiao Wu nodded quickly and led the 2 men out of the house. Nan Mei, who doesn't wear a veil, has a pretty face. People can't help but stop and marvel. Although his white clothes are still stained with blood, they can't hide his peerless face. Patriarch, here they are. Xiao Wu knocks on the door, takes them in, turns around and closes the door. So only Xiao Xingjie, Nan Gongyi and Shangguan were left in the patriarch's room. A maid poured water for Nan Gongyi and they stood still. When everything was ready, Xiao Xingjie sat down, looked at Shangguan and said, I don't know what you want to talk to me about. He turned to Nan Gongyi, who didn't wear the veil, and was surprised. Then he turned to Plain. Before, if Emperor Wu could be so frank with each other, we would have saved a lot of trouble. Nan Gongyi lowered his head, picked up the water cup, sipped it lightly and didn't speak. Say, Patriarch, do you know who I am? Shangguan pointed to his nose with a smile and asked. I don't know, Xiao Xingjie said with a smile. After looking at the 2 people he sighed. But I know that both of them are young talents. They are very good. Nan Gongyi looked at Shangguan and said slowly, This is the mysterious Wuzong master of Xinyu tribe. Before his voice fell, Xiao Xingjie's face suddenly changed. He suddenly jumped up, turned his head and yelled, Come on! In an instant, countless people with swords rushed in and surrounded the 2 people. Nan Gongyi couldn't help laughing bitterly. Patriarch, you are so cautious. This is my friend. Friends? Why do friends help Xinyu tribe? Do you mean that you are in partnership with Xinyu tribe to destroy our Xiaojia tribe? Xiao Xingjie stood nervously behind a group of people. His face was very ugly. No, we're here to solve this problem. Shangguan crooked a smile and looked around. But if you have to solve the problem with us, I'm afraid we two people in Wuzong realm. He looked out of the window and smacked his lips. I'm afraid this tribe will be almost destroyed without the people of Xinyu tribe over there. Xiao Xingjie's face was very ugly. He turned to Nan Gongyi with anger in his eyes. Is this the person you brought? Why is it so rude? Nan Gongyi, smiling and drinking tea, is very elegant, as he said. Shangguan pursed his mouth and restrained his smile. He didn't expect that Nan Gongyi, who was so serious at ordinary times, would play a hooligan with him at this time. So, would you like to sit down and listen to us? The Shangguan sat down, took a sip of tea from the cup, and frowned. This tea is really not delicious. Is that how you treat your distinguished guests? Xiao Xingjie's face was very ugly. He waved his hand to the guards around him, and asked the maid to bring him some good tea. Then he sat down and looked at the two people. He breathed out. Tell me what you want to talk about with me. I want to tell you that all the contradictions between you and Xinyu tribe actually point to one person. Shangguan said that his eyes were shining and he seemed very confident. So? I don't understand. Xiao Xingjie frowned and doubted Shangguan's words. Shangguan smiles, claps Nan Gongyi with his backhand, points to him and says, their target is actually him. In order to get him, they do not hesitate to take such a large-scale action. Nan Gongyi lowered his head and frowned. Yes, if it hadn't been for the appearance of people from the Beast Gate, he would not have expected this. Another thing. Shangguan suddenly stretched out his hand and spread it in front of Xiao Xingjie. Soon, the black fighting spirit had wrapped his palm. Xiao Xingjie stood up and looked up at Shangguan in shock. You are also a member of the Beast sect? It seems that you all know the Beast Gate. Shangguan raised the corner of his mouth and said, in fact, this time I came to protect your patron god, Lord Nangong, by the order of the head of Xinyu tribe. Xiao Xingjie was even more depressed. What's the situation? The head of Xinyu tribe asked him to protect the people who were against them? This is an oolong incident. Shangguan smiles bitterly and turns to Nan Gongyi, but Nan Gongyi doesn't understand. The people of the Beast Gate gave Xinyu tribe a task, that is, no matter how fierce the battle is, they must preserve Nangongji, because they want to take Nangongji away. However, Nan Gongyi suddenly broke through at this time, and the clan leader was afraid that Nan Gongyi would hurt himself when he broke through, so that he died and couldn't finish the task of Beast Gate. So he asked me to protect Nan Gongyi and help him through the robbery. Said here, Nan Gongyi suddenly, no wonder Shangguan will suddenly appear here and save his life. Whoever thought that all the animals had planted an eyeliner on this side and wanted to take him away when he was robbed of serious injuries, and the God Jade tribe just made me come to save Nan Gongyi. So to speak. Xiao Xingjie opened his eyes wide. You are not from the Beast Gate? I'm the one who betrays the Beast Gate. Shangguan scratched his head and said with a smile. So you understand why you are going to start a war all of a sudden? Looking around at Nangongji, Nangongji sat down and drank tea without saying a word. Then he continued. The Beast Gate hopes to unify the mainland and everything. They can take this opportunity to seize Nangongji and make you two tribes submit to them. Isn't it happy for all? Xiao Xingjie's mouth opened wide in shock, looking at Shangguan and Nangongji in front of him. After a long time, I finally sighed and murmured, well, I should thank you for coming to save Lord Wuzong. Otherwise our tribe will be destroyed soon? Shangguan nodded solemnly, patted Nan Gongyi on the shoulder and said to Xiao Xingjie, the best way now is to try to persuade the people of Xinyu tribe to let them know the truth and reach a settlement. Nan Gongyi frowned, avoided Shangguan's hand and stood up. In this way we will leave. Then he nodded to Xiao Xingjie, turned and walked towards the door. That. Wait, Xiao Xingjie suddenly stopped them. If this is true, then I'm so sorry for you. Why don't you come to me and I'll arrange accommodation for you to have a rest? No, Xiao Wu's house is small, but he's used to it. Shangguan didn't look back. He waved to Xiao Xingjie and disappeared at the door with Nangong Yi. Somebody. The smile on Xiao Xingjie's face disappeared instantly. He turned to the people around him and said, "Go and send some sharp-footed people to watch them for me. If anything happens, report to me immediately." A few humanitarian voices turned back. Xiao Xingjie narrowed his eyes and murmured, "Should I believe you or the people of the Beast Gate?" Nangong Yi and Shangguan walk slowly toward Xiao Wu's room. They are silent all the way. Shangguan knows that Nangong Yihua is less silent. He turns his head and looks around bored. "Nangong, are you here these days?" Shangguan asked curiously. Suddenly he saw the pastry stall and went to have a look. "Have you seen anyone else recently? I've been alone all the time." "Me too," Nangong Yi said, continued to move forward. He asked for nothing. Shangguan touched his nose to keep up with Nangong. They go back to Xiao Wu's house. They don't see Xiao Wu, but they see cooked food on the table. Shangguan took a piece of it and tasted it. He nodded with satisfaction and looked out of the window. "What about Xiao Wu?" Nangong Yi didn't reply, but he looked at a messy trace on the ground, frowned and walked in the direction of his steps. "I saw the land, a messy pace, toward the woods behind the house. Hijacked." Shangguan frowned and followed Nangong. "Is it the man of the Beast Gate again?" Nangong Yi and Shangguan galloped forward. But the footprints stopped abruptly in the woods. Shangguan and Nangongji stopped and looked around with a serious look. "Xiao Wu!" Shangguan suddenly yelled. The voice was infinitely amplified in the forest, startled the birds in the forest. No one answered. Shangguan suddenly jumped up to a big tree and looked down. Suddenly, not far away, there were 3 or 4 people around Xiao Wu, jumping down from the tree and galloping towards him. Nangong Yi sees Shangguan running to the other side, so he follows him. Sure enough, before he went far, he saw Xiao Wu surrounded by several people. Xiao Wu was lying on the ground, covered with soil, and his mouth was blue. "It's not from the Beast Gate." In the tomb of the ancient summoner, where countless experts gathered, a white figure, like entering a no-man's land, easily bypassed the exploration teams. From the initial access to the tomb, we can shuttle freely through the tomb. Even if we occasionally encounter some small problems, they are all solved easily. I don't know where the little thing is now. Long Qingxia leans in a corner and looks at an ear room in front of him being robbed by an exploration team. All the gold, silver and jewelry in it are emptied, but he doesn't mean to take a share. Just standing quietly on one side, the line of sight in the crowd constantly shuttle, thinking about what? According to the ability of little things, I'm afraid they should have reached the center by now. It seems that I should hurry up. Even if she doesn't arrive, I can inquire about the environment for her first. With this in mind, Long Qingxia did not hesitate to leave directly. Clinker, he just had news. Those who have just ransacked money, for fear of being robbed of the expedition team, suddenly found his presence. Who? A big man's sharp voice. Long Qingxia steps Emil. This just realized that he thought Cloud Dance thought too much. Forget his side cannot peaceful things. That you're tuning in to the Limei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.